A battle in the heart of Alabama caught our attention. Coal miners in one community, they've been on strike now for months.
Working as long as 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, in some of the most dangerous conditions.
I really think that the labor movement is the single greatest force for democracy in the history of the United States.
The story of Alabama is a story of not just resilience, but of militancy.
I say no contract, you say no code. No contract, no contract.
If we ain't all free, ain't none of us free.
You're listening to Alabama's only union talk radio show, The Valley Labor Report, with Adam Keller and Jacob Morrison.
That's right, folks. From the mountains of Kentucky to the bayous of Louisiana, broadcasting online and on the radio from the heart of the Tennessee Valley, in the Spice Radio studios in Huntsville, Alabama. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host and fellow agitator, Adam Keller, and today we follow up with educators in Virginia after their historic union win. Soccer players are revolting against FIFA. Southern Teamsters are making big bucks after their union win. Spotify's CEO makes too much money. All that and more on today's program. If you want to be part of the show today, we've got a phone number and the line is open. You can give us a call at 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. You can also leave us a voicemail throughout the week and we might respond to it on the next program. We also have a chat on the YouTube and Facebook live stream. So if you want to chat with us in real time, you can do that there. And we do keep an eye on the chat. Just want to let you know that if you haven't gotten enough of us by the time that we wrap up here on the radio, or if you just want to see what we're up to throughout the week, you can find us anywhere you find anything online, in particular at our website, TVLR.fm. You can do a lot of stuff related to the show on that website. In particular, you can subscribe to our newsletters at TVLR.fm/contact. Where you will get, if you subscribe to the newsletters, you will get Last Week in Southern Labor and Boss Watch right in your email inbox every single week. Just a reminder, your support helps us stay on the air. Our largest single source of funding comes directly from our listeners, so if you want to make a donation on a one-time or recurring monthly basis, you can do that at tvlr.fm/donate. You can also go to patreon.com/ the Valley Labor Report. We also have our new hats in, or our we ordered another round of our logo caps that were very popular. So I've got a bunch of them in my garage ready to be shipped for $35 plus shipping. If you want to buy one, you can go to our store at tvlr.fm/store. And if you're a member of a union, then you can reach out to us for details about getting your local, international, or state council to sponsor the program. We could not do it without the support of organized labor.
And let me add a disclaimer that any viewpoints or opinions expressed in this program belong solely to their author and do not necessarily represent any organization or sponsor. We welcome all of our listeners, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Unclaimed Mysteries Internet Radio, WVNN, WZZA, WHIV, WMMT, or through your favorite podcast app. We are proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network and encourage our listeners to check that out. And as most of you know, we are not media professionals, just a few diehard unionists who believe that Alabama and the South's labor movement and working class deserve a bigger platform. We're hoping this project can make a difference on that front, and we could not do it without you. We want to thank everyone for tuning in, whether you're a loyal fan or a first-time listener. We appreciate you spending some time with us this morning.
And with that, let's jump right into Last Week in Southern Labor. So here's what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to from June the 7th to June the 14th. In new union campaigns, 571 workers across 8 bargaining units are in new union elections, and 137 workers across 2 bargaining units are in new decertification campaigns. The first one is the employer filed a petition to hold a union election after a majority of the 5 5 workers at the El Paso Electric Company in El Paso, Texas, demonstrated majority support for unionization with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, Local 1245. 10 workers at Atomic Transport in Chattanooga, Tennessee, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 519. 15 workers in facilities maintenance at Weston Hotel in Washington, D.C., filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE, Local 99. The employer filed a petition to hold a union election after a majority of the 22 workers at Division 5 LLC in Hickory, North Carolina, demonstrated support for unionization with the International Association of Iron Workers, IW. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the United Steelworkers, USW, as the union representing the 64 workers at Mountain Enterprises in Hager Hill, Kentucky. 403 workers at Genera PR in San Juan, Puerto Rico, filed a petition to hold a union election with the USW. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, District 1199, as the union representing 73 workers at McDowell County Commission on Aging in Welch, West Virginia. 14 workers at Intralot in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, filed a petition to hold a union election with the IBEW, Local 995. 4 workers at John Fabic Tractor Company in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with IUOE, Local 513. And 100 workers at Lufkin U.S. Acquisition Company in Claremore, Oklahoma, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, IAMAW. In election results, 27,675 workers across 8 bargaining units are newly unionized, most of that coming from the Fairfax education unions. 62 workers in 1 bargaining unit maintained unionization in a decertification election, and 29 workers in 1 bargaining unit withdrew their election petition. Starting off with 27,500 workers in Fairfax County Public Schools voting 97% in the instructional unit and 81% in the operational unit in favor of unionizing with the Fairfax education unions. 14 workers at Dallas Black Dance Theater in Dallas, Texas, voted unanimously with 100% turnout in favor of unionization with the American Guild of Musical Artists. 31 workers at Accordius Health in Wilson, North Carolina, voted 17-6 in favor of unionization with the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, Local 1208. 62 workers at Transcontinental ACUS LLC in Matthews, North Carolina, voted 37-19 for maintaining unionization with the Communication Workers of America, CWA, Local 3603, in a decertification election. 10 security guards at Universal Protection Service in Washington, D.C. voted 5-1 in favor of unionization with the United Government Security Officers of America, UGSOA, Local 259. 54 workers at Choice Adhesives in Lynchburg, Virginia, voted a majority in favor of unionization with the IBEW, Local 2173. 6 workers at All Crane Rental of Georgia in Phoenix City, Georgia, voted 4-2 in favor of unionization with IUOE, Local 312. 35 workers at True Timber Arborists in Richmond, Virginia, voted 23-5 in favor of unionization with the IAMAW. 25 workers at Sightline Media Group in Arlington, Virginia, voted 17-0 in favor of unionization with the Washington Baltimore News Guild, WBNG CWA, Local 32035. 29 workers at Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits in Louisville, Kentucky, withdrew their petition for unionization with the Teamsters, Local 783. In strikes and bargaining updates, even amid the assault on public sector labor in Florida, where friend of the show McKenna Schuler reports that some 50,000 public sector workers have lost their union rights, some locals are building strength, like AFSCME, Local 871, where they passed the 60% threshold to maintain their union rights and actually climbed past that to an 85% union membership rate. They just ratified a new 3-year contract that contains an 18% pay increase, no concessions on pension and health care, and more. Tesla shareholders just approved the largest pay package in history for Elon Musk, $56 billion, even as Tesla has laid off 14,000 workers globally, including nearly 3,000 just in Texas, and as Tesla's stock price has fallen nearly 30% in just the last year. After years of organizing by the Union of Southern Service Workers, USSW, Waffle House is making the biggest investment in its workforce in the history of the company, giving a $3 an hour raise to thousands of workers at more than 1,500 stores in the South based on tenure, store location, and other factors. The union says it will continue fighting for a $25 an hour minimum wage. The SPLC union announced that SPLC will be laying off a quarter of its staff, including the entire immigrant rights team, despite the organization having over $1 billion in reserves and an F rating from Charity Watch for hoarding donations. The union is accusing the SPLC of strategically timing the layoffs less than a year before they begin bargaining for a second contract, specifically to intimidate the workers. The defendants in the case filed by current and former inmates and unions against the Alabama Department of Corrections alleging forced labor and multiple employers. The multiple employers filed a motion to dismiss. Inmates responded with 214 pages opposing said motion. In political and legislative updates, the anti-worker Supreme Court came down with an anti-worker decision last week in Starbucks versus McKinney, which is a case based on the Memphis 7, stating that the NLRB must use a more strict test when seeking 10J injunctions to curtail the wanton lawbreaking of corporations, defying precedent and explicit language in the NLRA that courts should defer to the NLRB in matters surrounding the NLRA. NLRB attorney Brandon Magner doesn't think that this will materially change much, but it's never good for the NLRB to have any of the few tools that it has taken away. A proposed federal rule to protect indoor and outdoor workers from heat stress is now under review at the White House amid rising temperatures globally. The text of the proposal is not public, but OSHA has previously said protections could kick in at 80 degrees. Julie Sue, acting labor secretary, visited Birmingham last week, touting the department's Good Jobs initiative. While in Alabama, Sue also visited the New Flyer plant in Anniston, where management voluntarily recognized the workers' union, and they just secured a first contract with double-digit raises. The Council of Bosses in Alabama endorsed Democrat Kelvin Datcher in the District 52 special election. 24,000 CWA retirees will see their pensions restored to solvency after receiving a lifeline from the American Rescue Plan. And in internal union affairs, the Alabama Political Reporter's Chance Phillips wrote a good summary of a recent webinar on, quote, organizing collective action and the National Labor Relations Board, which featured high-profile labor leaders and the NLRB's General Counsel Jennifer Abruzzo. A significant portion of the webinar was devoted to ongoing organizing efforts in the South. The federal monitor tasked with overseeing the UAW after years of corruption has announced a probe into new President Shawn Fain as two other leaders accuse him of retaliation, and the monitor accuses him of slow-walking access to documents. Fain says that these accusations are just the growing pains of a union taken over by reformers, but where the old guard is still present. If we missed anything, let us know at tvlr.fm/contact, and we'll include it in next week's update. We're going to take a break really quick, and we're going to be right back with some folks from the Fairfax education unions to discuss their recent win in the largest public sector union election in 25 years. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Valley Labor Report.
Benefit Architects has proudly supported union members and union-made products for over 35 years. If you are a federal employee and an AFGE member, you're eligible for hundreds of dollars in money-saving benefits, including group life insurance, dental insurance, and AFLAC insurance. Additionally, if you're a union member but don't work for the federal government, you can still qualify for several of these money-saving policies. So give Tate Cure a call at 256-215-6769 for details and to enroll. Again, that is Tate Cure at 256-215-6769.
In Alabama, more than 200,000 of our friends and family members are living without health care coverage. Often folks can't stay healthy enough even to keep their jobs. We can fix this. It's time for us to find a way to close the health care coverage gap so that people can remain at work. Let's make this a priority. Let's close this gap and cover Alabama. To learn more and how you can help, visit coveralabama.org.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time. The attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtnj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services provided is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms.
Support for the Valley Labor Report comes from the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers Union. Learn more by visiting www.ifpte.org.
Attention union members, membership organizations, podcasters, or anyone with a payment processing need. The future is here, and your organization needs to be prepared by working with Unionly. With Unionly, your union or organization can take payments on a mobile device, eliminating processing fees, giving you a better price than other payment processing methods, while at the same time supporting a union-friendly business with a specialized skill set to meet your needs. Your members will thank you when they pay their dues at their convenience without waiting in line to deposit cash or check. Start preparing for the future today by calling 206-595-8631 or visiting unionly.io.
Are you looking for a better future, a career that can have you set for life, and to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself? If you are, then consider a skilled trades apprenticeship with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. The work of IUPAT is all around us, from the industrial painters who work on the bridges to drywall finishers, floor coverers, the glazers who install the glass in our skylines, and so much more. With an IUPAT apprenticeship, you earn while you learn and receive benefits while learning the trade, including a pension. We provide world-class education free of charge. That's right, no student debt. Our starting salaries for apprentices that graduate is above the national median salary with benefits for entire families. And you have the flexibility to take your trade wherever you'd like in the country to work. IUPAT District Council 77 covers our entire region, so give Adam Booth a call at 205-603-3142 for more information. Again, that phone number is 205-603-3142. Come build a better future with us today and join IUPAT.
I'm attorney Tommy Sinyard. When you've been injured and need help, you need a lawyer who's with you.
Sinyard Law. You need attorneys always available to take care of you. Sinyard Law.
And keep you in the loop. It's your case. You need to know what's happening.
Sinyard Law. And never a charge to meet with us to evaluate your case. Sinyard Law.
A new firm, but an old name. One that will stay with you every step of the way.
Sinyard Law, the name with proven results.
Support for this program is provided by the International Association for Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local Lodge 44 in Decatur, Alabama. Learn more at iamaw44.org.
Come on, you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Labor creates all wealth shall go to labor, and you are listening to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host Adam Keller. We've got a quick story for you before we talk to the Fairfax Education Unions. FIFA may be facing a soccer player uprising after trying to squeeze too much profit out of the players. If news surrounding the recently announced 2025 Club World Cup is any indicator, the International Federation of Professional Footballers, which counts its member organizations as the unions of professional soccer players from around the world, is protesting the announcement of a new competition, saying that this is taking place in the context of an already overcrowded global competition calendar. To illustrate this, last year Fox Sports had a report on overworked soccer players and highlighted the following cases. Manchester United and Portugal midfielder Bruno Fernandes made 70 appearances for club and country, including a run of 20 consecutive games. Manchester City and Spain midfielder Rodri played in 10 different competitions. Poland defender Kamil Glik was back into action for Italian team Benevento just 4 days after his country was eliminated from last year's World Cup, which was staged in November and December. The tournament was moved from its traditional time of June to July because temperatures would be too high during those months in the host nation of Qatar. Rafael Varane, who was injured on the eve of the tournament but recovered to help France advance to the final, waited 8 days after that match to play again for his club, Manchester United. So lots of overworked soccer players there. In addition to just the amount of games being overwhelming for a lot of these players, aspects of the game itself have changed to make even one game more strenuous than it used to be. Specifically, there are new rules adding significant amounts of time to the ends of games, with matches now seeing run times of over 100 minutes. And, if you've ever watched a soccer game, the whole time they're just running. It's actually insane how athletic and physical the sport is. A 2023 report by the International Federation of Professional Soccer Players also identified violence as a key concern among players, with 84% of members saying that violence in the industry has a significant impact on the health of players. In particular, we are apparently talking about fan behavior in soccer, and 43% of players reporting that they experienced, quote, extreme or increased mental fatigue from the congested schedule. With all of this in the background, the announcement of a new competition in the normal offseason was too much for the soccer player unions, and they are taking FIFA to court in the European Union, challenging the legality of FIFA being able to set the international match calendar unilaterally, in particular with reference to this new competition. Player unions believe that these decisions violate the rights of players and their unions under the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights, while also potentially violating the European Union's competition law, the federation said. You will not at all be surprised, however, that the club owners do not share the players' concerns. From the Associated Press, despite the opposition of the Federation of the International Federation of Soccer Players Unions, the European Clubs Association has said that the Club World Cup was, quote, fantastic news for club football in general. With that short story out of the way, we're going to get to Fairfax County, Virginia, where a couple of weeks ago we checked in with school workers in Fairfax County who were in the middle of the biggest public sector union campaign in decades, with 27,000 workers voting on whether or not they were going to unionize with the Fairfax education unions. This was made possible after the Virginia legislature gave local governments discretion about whether or not their employees could have collective bargaining rights. In 2023, the Fairfax County School Board passed a resolution allowing their employees to unionize. Since the law passed in the Virginia legislature in 2021, Joe DeManuel Hall in Labor notes that so far, the firefighters, IAFF, have won 5 contracts, as well as Prince William County teachers and support staff with a National Education Association affiliate. Richmond Schools workers have also organized, as have others, but in Virginia Beach, where some city workers started organizing with the United Electrical Workers before the law was passed, the city council recently rejected an IAFF petition for collective bargaining. Well, the workers at Fairfax County Schools in Virginia just won their union last week, so we wanted to follow up with them. We have on the line Leslie Houston, an educator and president of the Fairfax Education Association, David Walrod, educator and president of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers, Eugenio Fisher, educator and rank-and-file supporter of the campaign, and Isaiah Woods, warehouse driver and rank-and-file supporter of the campaign. David, Leslie, Eugenio, Isaiah, welcome to the program. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, obviously, we were talking about this last time with you, David and Leslie, about how big of a story this is, and how it really did not seem to us that in the run-up to the election, the media was properly kind of paying attention to the largest public sector union campaign in a quarter century. Since you won, though, there has been some more attention paid to the campaign. So Leslie, I guess I'll just start off with the reaction to the win among the community and the media, and just what has it been like since you won, and won overwhelmingly. Over 90% of instructional staff voted in favor of the union. Over 80% of operational staff voted in favor of the union. So really an overwhelming victory. So what has the reaction been like, Leslie?
It has been beyond positive. Beyond belief. For me, I've received phone calls. I received flowers and cards and hugs. The most important for me is when parents called to say thank you. They understood. They absolutely understood that this would be best for their kids as well.
Absolutely. And David, what have you seen from the reaction around the win?
The reaction I've seen has been overwhelmingly positive. It seems like we've gotten some positive stories in the press. Everybody that we're talking to is so excited. Like this was the final week of school, and we had lots of folks kind of tell us that this was enough to power them through those hard last couple days. The reaction has been overwhelmingly positive, and it's been really a joy to see how much hope that this has returned to some folks that have been working so hard for so long.
Absolutely, I'm sure it's been. I'm sure it's a big weight off your shoulders in some sense, although now the fight is really going to begin, and we'll talk about that some shortly. But just to back up for a second, we had David and Leslie on last time, but we wanted to get on a couple of more people to kind of broaden the view of the campaign. We have on Eugenio Fisher and Isaiah Woods, who are both rank and file workers in Fairfax County Public Schools. So Isaiah, I'm interested in hearing from you just the working conditions in Fairfax schools. Can you tell people, what your job is and what you do and what it was like working in Fairfax County Public Schools before your union won?
No problem. So I'm a warehouse worker driver. So what we do is at the warehouse, we basically supply everything that the school needs, from toilet tissue to wrestling mats, student desks, everything you need, any and everything that a school would need. The working conditions, it can be really rough sometimes because we don't have enough man or woman power to get everything that's needed from the schools that order in whatever they may need. So it can be tough, but this victory, you can see the boost of the morale in the warehouse just yesterday, and it gives us hope, and it gives us that we're finally seen. It's been so long that the operational side, we felt like other departments didn't even know we existed. But with this victory, now we feel like we have a voice, and the numbers alone show you how much we really wanted this. So we are super excited for this. I know this is the first step, and we have a battle ahead of us, but strength by numbers can do anything.
Absolutely. Eugenio, as a classroom educator, what were some of the problems that you faced personally and that were common among the bargaining unit employees in Fairfax County?
Wow. I don't know where you want me to start. The workload, that's probably the biggest challenge. Number size in classrooms. There's just this huge list of things. The thing that my colleagues and I will talk about, and this is going to be kind of a trite statement or cliche, but we have the proverbial lunchroom discussions, and it's almost always about what do they want us to do next? Where there's just too much assigned to teachers to do, which is pretty much, humanly impossible to keep up with the amount of work that they want us to do.
Right. And so what kind of classroom sizes are we talking about? What kind of workload are we talking about? Just to kind of help folks understand some of the things that y'all are wanting to fight against.
So right now, I think we cap out at about 32 to 33. But if you have 5 classes of 32 to 33 kids, you're responsible for over 150 students. Well, we, IEPs, 504s, just the constant monitoring of grades, just parent-teacher conferences, the SEL lessons. I don't know. I mean, I'm using a lot of acronyms, and I apologize for that. But there is just, when you become a teacher, it's an impossible amount of data to try to tackle, to try to understand. I have a young man who I mentor this year, and he's phenomenal, right? My big concern is that he will get burnt out. And I've been in the industry for 24 years. I've been teaching since 2000. And I came in with serious, desires. And I know that he also has a lot of desires, but he's a 28-year-old. And the amount of we also have CT meetings. You have, reports that you're supposed to produce on a weekly basis, not to mention, just your subject planning. You might have 3 different preps. Again, for the audience that doesn't know what this entails, basically what you are doing is you are robbing from all of your personal time to be able to complete these tasks as a professional. In other words, you go home and you continue to work for another 3 to 4 hours every night. People say, and I mean, this is the cliche argument, well, you get two months off. I'm like, yeah, because we pack in 13 months into 10.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so, Isaiah, being in the operational unit, the operational unit was still, 81% is overwhelming, but it was lower than the instructional unit. And so I'm interested in what were some of the obstacles that you faced in, being a rank and file supporter, trying to talk to your coworkers, getting them to vote and vote for the union. What were some of the concerns that people had in the operational unit, and how did you and your fellow union supporters address them?
Well, the biggest concern was the distrust. At first they didn't trust that this would even get to this point. And I have to be 100% honest with you. I was one of those people as well. And all that changed the day that I met Miss Leslie, or Miss Hughes. I call her Miss Leslie, but and she came in and she spoke to us, and she said, it's what she didn't say that got me on board. She didn't promise anything. She didn't guarantee anything. She just said, we're going to do our hardest and everything in our willpower to get this ball moving. And that was the first time that I just truly believed that, okay, this can happen. You hear a lot of politicians, promise things and not being able to deliver on those promises, and not hearing, those 2 words, which are simple words, it meant everything to us. So by coming in and being upfront and listening to us, that broke the barrier of the distrust.
And what about, interactions with instructional staff? Was there a strong kind of cooperation between rank and file instructional staff and operational staff, or did it kind of operate as 2 parallel campaigns?
Well, from my experience, from speaking from just everyone instructional staff that I've come across with, it seemed everyone was on the same page. I even at one of the meetings, I spoke up myself about the IAs. I think it is so just not right on what their pay scale is on the amount of work that they do. And I've never stepped foot in the classroom to teach, But when I'm in the schools delivering supplies, I see what they go through on a day-to-day basis firsthand. And they also felt like they weren't heard. So this talking to them through the hallways and passing it was like we need to come together on this because we're in the same boat fighting the same fight. So yeah, it was we were together on this one.
Right. And Eugenio, I'm wondering how you saw that divide from the other side. What were some of the things that you were conscious of as the campaign was unfolding, in trying to make sure that the operational staff around you didn't feel left out during the campaign?
Well, to be completely honest, I know a lot of the operational employees at my school, at the school I work at, but there was not that much conversation around this particular issue. It was more with my immediate colleagues that were hesitant. So I apologize. I can't answer that question directly.
No, absolutely.
And I can kind of jump in for that one. Sorry. But as far as like some of the custodians, a lot of them didn't even know that there was a vote going on because why? I mean, they're swamped with work. You get to certain schools and you might have 2 custodians for the whole school.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think they have time to, check and see what's going, they don't. And when the evening custodians come in, they have a load of work as well. So it was just about, it was about just them not understanding that this resource was out there for them. And that was a hard thing. That was hard to spread the word because a lot of them kind of, are almost on their way out. So they're just kind of like, I'm just gonna just deal with it. I got a year or 2 left to go. Right. So that was a obstacle.
And so, Eugenio, what were some of the obstacles that you faced as you were talking to your immediate coworkers about the campaign?
I think one of the biggest obstacles was the stigma around unions about the politics. If a coworker is conservative leaning and they think that the unions are just another form of an extension of like the Democratic Party, and I'm like, this is to advocate for our. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with, it does have to do with politics in terms of like what gets proportioned and who gets funded. And so my big conversations would be about let's look at other counties, like say for example Montgomery County in Maryland as opposed to Fairfax County. These are comparable size, but they have collective bargaining. And then we would get in conversation and I'm trying to explain to them about, well, Virginia's a right to work state. Maryland is a closed shop state, and I don't know. Again, I imagine some of your listeners are going to know the differences, but my colleagues have no idea what that meant. And I was just like, well, what's going to happen is that should we get this, we're going to have the opportunity to come as one group. Right now, we are basically at will employees. We have individual contracts. And, to put it bluntly, that sucks. You can't go up against Fairfax County School Board as an individual. You can go and beg and plead. And that's what I was trying to convey to teachers is that where we come united, right, that's where all the strength is going to happen. And so, for example, we didn't get a step increase this year. We got barely a 4% raise. We had a 2% raise at the beginning of the year that was going to sunset at the end of June. And trying to explain all this stuff, teachers, they don't know this. They don't pay attention to politics, So I'm the one that's in there in the lunchroom, and I'm in my small, tiny little coterie of teachers. But there are thousands of other teachers where this conversation is not happening, and so the education component, ironically, with educators is almost non-existent. So there was just all this misinformation about like, well, the union is trying to, and I was like, no, there are 2 unions. It's FEA, it's FCFT, and they're joining, they're coming together. They're going to be one big bad union, meaning bad good, right? So there was just a lot of fear and hesitation about like, oh, should I join? They're going to make me pay. I was like, no, that's the thing about right to work states. You get all the benefits and you don't have to pay the dues. So I finally was able to convince some of my coworkers and be like, I'm not saying that we're going to go on strike, right, if we don't get a pay raise, but that is something that would not even be entertained that you can't do I mean, you could try and do a wildcat strike or whatever they're called, like where you can say like, I'm going to work less hours. I'm not going to grade as many papers, that stuff. I'm like, but it's a drop in the bucket. You're not going to get any traction with that. So trying to explain to teachers just the importance of this membership and this monumental, change. It was difficult with teachers, right? I am super encouraged by the fact that so many voted. Like you said, the numbers were just like what 90+% that voted in favor, and that's where I was just like, thank God, the masses have spoken.
Right. And so, David, moving from one fight to the next, having won the election, now the next step is to bargain a first contract. Logistically, what are some of the next steps that y'all are going to be taking in this contract fight, and what are some of the, do you have an idea of some of the top priorities that you're going to come to the table with, or do you have a plan to, have a extensive kind of member survey around what or do you feel like you already have a good idea of what the members their top priorities are? So yeah, what are some of the next steps towards bargaining, and what are your priorities going to be? How are you going to decide them?
Well, the big thing that we have kind of circled on our calendar right now is the date that actually comes from the resolution that Fairfax County passed, and that date is September 1st. September 1st is when we have to have a first proposal of any contract items that could have a financial cost attached. And so that is the date that I have circled on my calendar, and I'm sure Leslie has it circled in her calendar too. And so, like you said, this summer, we want to try to get feedback from as many teachers, as many operational folks as we possibly can, because this isn't my contract. This isn't Leslie's contract. This is the contract for the workers of Fairfax County. So we have an initial bargaining survey that we are working on getting out to folks, and we are going to be pushing that hard. And then we also are obviously going to be setting up our actual bargaining committee, because, it can't be me at the table. It can't be Leslie at the table. Like we need a lot of voices represented, where there are a lot of people that need representation. So we're going to be working on trying to get that set this summer, kind of in mind with the fact that September 1st is the real important date here.
Right. And so, Leslie, are you expecting that Fairfax County is going to be amicable at the table and bargain with you fairly and give you the contract you deserve without without much trouble, or what kind of fight are you expecting to go into in September?
So the answer is yes. I do believe that they will come and bargain in good faith. However, I am very well aware that while the superintendent and the school board members, I do believe that they want certain things to happen, and they want this to be very positive. I am also aware that when you get lawyers and other people involved, that it can become nasty. But what I will say is that one of my biggest things is integrity. And so we're coming to the table with integrity. We're going to make sure that we have people like Mr. Fisher and Mr. Woods and educators there who are able to, they will have been trained for every aspect of this bargaining at this table. And we have to, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen. While I am here saying that, yes, I believe that they will come to the table and they will bargain in good faith. We want open bargaining. We want to make sure that everybody is aware of what is going on. But you don't know that till you get to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob, I'd like to say one thing. To go back, our instructional and our operational staff were never divided. I made a conscious decision not to move this campaign without our operational staff. And the reason was because we cannot do our jobs as instructional staff without our operational staff. And David and I understood that. So it was very important for us to move in that manner. But the two of them weren't necessarily divided. Actually, as Mr. Wood said, he's the one that brought to my attention, and I knew what was happening with instructional assistants, but he was so passionate as a warehouse driver about what he had seen in schools. And he brought forth what was happening with instructional assistants. And then he started talking about custodians. So, we have advocates on these teams.
Right. That's really great to hear, because there can be, in some cases, there can be a big divide between operational and instructional, even though it's exactly as you said, the instructional could not do their job without the operational, and right. The operational staff depends on the labor of the instructional staff to have the institution. They're really interdependent, and it is it's a shame and a really sad state of affairs when there isn't the unity there that there should be and intuitively should be, and so I've been consistently impressed with the emphasis from this campaign on uniting instructional and operational staff, and so Leslie, we'll hear from I'm sure some other folks are going to have an answer to this question as well, or some other thoughts, but we'll start with you since we're with you, just as a general. And this has been alluded to previously in our conversation, that there are some folks out there that think that everything that has ever gone wrong in a public school ever is the fault of a teachers union. And we all have, and we talked about some problems that we see with the public education system in this interview, right? So none of us are naive or blind to issues in the public education system, but obviously we have a different prognosis or a diagnosis of what the problem is. But there are some people that are like, the reason everything is so bad in the school system is because of teachers unions. Leslie, why are they wrong?
So let me start off, Jacob, by saying that we are not a teachers union. We have many classifications in our union. So let me correct that. And I see that a lot in all of these articles. We are not a teachers union. And so they're wrong because of a fundamental misunderstanding of what unions are. We don't exist to protect bad teachers. In fact, if you're not good for kids, I don't want you in front of a classroom. We don't exist to protect bad teachers. That's not what we're here for. We exist to protect a fair process for everybody. We're not run by the proverbial union bosses you see in the movies. I'm a special education teacher. David Walrod is a special education teacher. We're run by your child's first grade teacher, your special education teacher. Unions are run by, bus drivers and, the kind lady who help families register for school. Education unions are important because we know the systemic gaps. We know the gaps. We know where everything is firsthand. So if you stop and you think about it, we're the ones who see the damage and the flaws of the high stakes testing, and we're the ones that bring it forward. David and I do that on a regular basis. So I can go on and on. We know the impact of the budget because we live it every day. These two gentlemen that you have here who are rank and file, they live it every day. When we were in the classrooms, we were getting, that's the pay that we were getting. We know the importance of character traits and, such as kindness and compassion. And we, the teachers, can teach it. We always have. We've been mom, we've been dad, we've been doctors, we've been nurses. We've done it all. So when I hear people say everything is bad because of the, as they put it, teachers unions, I'm like, I don't think that they are aware of everything that goes on in our profession. We know our profession. We're the experts.
Right.
It was a lot, but that gets me riled up. And it gets me riled up because right now, Jacob, our profession is slowly draining. You know, not just, we're not just losing teachers, we're in the process of losing resources. And, there's a potential impact, by lazy and greedy politicians, there's a lot. So, elections matter. There's a lot. There's just so much to talk about when it comes to that. But we are not trying to destroy education. If you don't have us, there will not be any education. Now, think about that.
Right.
Where do we want to go to?
Right. That's exactly right. Eugenia, was there anything that you wanted to add, as a response to some of those ideas that we face, in the community and probably in the media more than the community, actually?
Yeah, without naming, any of the big, federal, meaning nationwide players in terms of media and the amount of disinformation and propaganda that just gets hurled at educators in general. I cannot agree anymore. Leslie and I, she's family, and she knows because she was in the trenches with me, that you become, if you are committed to this and you do this for a passion, right? Again, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's something that I do because I want to help kids. I am that kid that needed the help, and so I became that person that wanted to help the kids. We are these huge targets, right? We are just the proverbial, whipping boys. If I hope that's not an inaccurate or a offensive analogy, but everything from work hours, everything from the amount of personal items that you have to pay for. Fairfax County will not give teachers a spending budget, and you can deduct how much, like $250 from your federal taxes. Every teacher I know spends at least $500 to $600 to $700 to $800 a year on stuff like Kleenex, right? Hand sanitizer, markers, and I mean, if you're a teacher in Fairfax County is in fact, it's a fantastic county. It's got a lot of resources, $3.8 billion budget. And I make sure to explain that to my students. Like, that means you guys get an average of about 15 to 16,000. I don't know, but you can't live in Fairfax County if you're a beginning teacher. You literally cannot. If you're a $60,000, and this is a teacher, I'm not talking custodial staff, right? If you're a teacher and you came out of college and you've got like a $50,000 college loan and you're making $60K, my niece, and I mean, I'm hoping that she'll hear this at some point, she has to room with people, but I'm like, you make $60K a year. I would have never thought of making that much money as a 22-year-old. Well, she can't live in this county. There's no way that she can buy in this county. I'm trying to help teachers. So that's a really huge component. But then you get the squeeze on the other side where you're like, but you're the reason for everything being wrong. From grooming students, I'm like, grooming students. If I could groom a student to bring a pencil, that would be my biggest grooming. I mean, it's just all these kind of really cockamamie ideas about like what kind of power. Like, well, if you think we have all the power, then that would be great. Show us the appreciation in terms of not just monetary compensation, but also, a lessening of the professional and hiring more staff to help us do this out. Because again, I can talk to you forever about, like I was mentioning before, what are the, tertiary activities that teachers have to do that if we don't do them, then the system starts to fall apart and we just take it upon ourselves. It's like, hey, that's just part of my job. Well, it shouldn't be, Again, I wouldn't ask a doctor, to come to my house and cut my grass, right? Because like, well, isn't that part of your job? It's almost the kind of thing that we do. Like we go out and do, we'll buy kids stuff. And that's not that we don't want to. That's definitely part of the thing that teachers want to do. But when you're talking about limited supplies that teachers have, again, you're like, okay, well, we're not getting compensated for this stuff. And if we are truly going to help, like Leslie said, what's the alternative? you got to recognize us as a professional, class, and you got to pay us as such, and just give us the respect that we deserve. Again, in terms of like diminishing, responsibilities, you can't ask us to teach, again, the SEL stuff I mentioned earlier. It's called social emotional learning. Well, that's a huge component. A lot of teachers have a really hard time with it. Where I'm like, okay, I want to teach kids resilience. Yeah, absolutely. But are you passing off more and more of these responsibilities onto teachers that were like, I don't necessarily know that I should be doing that. My subject is Spanish. I mean, I don't need to teach executive functioning. I do want to teach kids through my lesson plans, but I have a special class on its own that I have to do this with.
Right.
That's tough.
Yeah. I've always thought it was strange that supposedly the teachers' unions control the entire education system, and yet they, for some reason, teachers still, their salaries are not very high. They continue to have extremely high class sizes. They don't get very large stipends for buying supplies for their classrooms. It's really weird state of affairs if the teachers are controlling everything. But what do I know? Just to wrap up, we had a question in the chat from Mel, because in Alabama, the legislature just passed an enormous $100 million privatization scheme, pulling $100 million from the public schools in Alabama, directing them to private schools where, we all know the statistics. Most of the people in private schools, they're already wealthy. Certainly the median salary of parents of private school kids are significantly higher than public school kids. All of the reasons that it's a bad idea. Is there a similar push for legislation like that in Virginia, David?
There definitely is. Our legislature, there's a new legislature every 2 years, and every 2 years a new legislature comes in and some folks try to push bills like that through. Luckily, a lot of our legislators, especially some of our Fairfax delegation, they see through that and they recognize the fact that that it is a scam, and it is just an attempt to, funnel money away from the public sector, from the public school system, and they have not had much traction. In fact, this last General Assembly, previously there had been quite a few bills that had to be rejected. This year there were almost none. So I think folks are starting to learn their lesson here, that we love public schools here in Virginia. We recognize that public schools are kind of the basis of a democracy. We recognize that public schools are the path forward for ensuring that our students have a good start to their education. If somebody wants to, if somebody feels that private school is a better fit for their student, that's absolutely fine. But they don't need public money to pay for their private decisions.
Right. Well, everybody, I really appreciate your time. I've enjoyed the interview, and appreciate everybody tuning in to the interview. I think this is good stuff, and we're going to be continuing to follow this story as 27,000 union members in Fairfax County, Virginia, begin to bargain their first contract, and look forward to them winning significant gains for all of their members. So again, appreciate everybody for taking the time with us this morning. Leslie Houston, educator, special education educator, and president of the Fairfax Education Association. David Walrod, also special education teacher and president of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers. Eugenio Fisher, a Spanish teacher and rank-and-file supporter of the union campaign. And Isaiah Woods, warehouse driver, also rank-and-file supporter of the campaign. Thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks. We're going to go to another break, and we're going to be right back with a comparison of before the union and after the union of this Teamster in Kentucky that he shared of his paycheck before he joined before his workplace unionized and after, and it is extremely significant. We're also going to be getting to Boss Watch, and we have a whole second half of the program that begins at 11. If you want to call in at 844-899-TVLR, that is 844-899-887. We'll be happy to take your calls at the start of overtime, the second half of the program. So stay tuned, folks. We're going to head into a break, and we're going to be right back to wrap up the first half of the show.
In Alabama, more than 200,000 of our friends and neighbors are living without health care coverage. Often folks can't stay healthy enough to keep their jobs. We need to fix this. Let's close the health care coverage gap. To learn more, visit coveralabama.org.
Support for this program also comes from the Iron Workers, Local 477. So if you are looking for contractors with lower than average EMR and TRIR, they tell me that if you need to know what those mean, then you will. Or if you need to supplement a workforce at any level for any amount of time, short or long term, if you need iron workers that come trained and certified at no extra cost, or if you need workers from superintendent down to general laborer, and you're looking to start work on a project, or you're unhappy with your current contractor situation, you need to call my friend Jeb Miles with the Ironworkers Local 477. They only work with the best in the business, vetted contractors, and can do all kinds of jobs, from roofing to steel and bridge erection, from welding to heavy rigging, from structural repairs to machinery alignment, and much more. They supply manpower on 4 of the 5 largest projects in North Alabama, so you know they're legit. If you need good quality, safe, efficient, diligent, and knowledgeable workers on your job, then you need the Ironworkers Local 477. Call Jeb Miles at 256-383-3334 or via email at local477@bellsouth.net, and make sure you tell them that you heard about them on the Valley Labor Report.
We're the nurses, firefighters, and claims representatives that help keep our government services running. We respond to natural disasters. We care for our nation's veterans, and we investigate discrimination in the workplace. We are federal and D.C. government workers, and we are proud to serve the American people. Working in more than 70 agencies across the government, we know we can fulfill our mission because our union has our back. Learn more at afge.org. Paid for by the American Federation of Government Employees, AFL-CIO.
The Laborers International Union of North America, Local 366, is proudly recruiting North Alabama workers to work construction and nuclear plant maintenance. If you're interested, please contact Donna at their training center to start the process. That phone number is 256-415-7452. Again, that phone number is 256-415-7452. No experience is needed. Free training is offered, but you must be able to pass a background check and a drug test. Local hiring that grows our community with good-paying jobs that have benefits is their mission. Live better, work union, Local 366, feel the power.
Support for this program also comes from the Mid-South Council of Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union. Learn more at rwdsu.info.
I'm Attorney Tommy Sinyard. When you've been injured and need help, you need a lawyer who's with you.
Sinyard Law. You need attorneys always available to take care of you. Sinyard Law.
And keep you in the loop. It's your case. You need to know what's happening.
Sinyard Law. And never a charge to meet with us to evaluate your case. Sinyard Law.
A new firm, but an old name. One that will stay with you every step of the way.
Sinyard Law. The name with proven results.
Come on, you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Alabama's only union talk radio show. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host and fellow agitator, Adam Keller. We just wrapped up a conversation with 4 members of the Fairfax education unions in Fairfax County, Virginia. They just won the largest public sector union campaign in 25 years. Really enjoyed that conversation with them.
That's a big deal.
Absolutely. We've had at various points over 40 people watching us on YouTube and only 27 likes. What's up with that? If you haven't liked the stream and you're watching us, please go ahead and do that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We do stuff like this every single Saturday morning, talking to workers about the things that they're up to. Appreciate everybody participating in the chat. We have Eric, Very Us Mumblings, Jada, Adam S., Brandon Hill, Penelope, Teamsters, J705, Chicago, DL Cindero, Scott, and Leanne. Thank you all very much. Appreciate y'all for participating in the chat. Very Us Mumbling says, if West Virginia gets a union too, can we sing that John Denver song? You can sing whatever you want, whenever you want. I'm a free speech guy, so I'm not gonna put any restrictions on you there. Adam S. says left is best. Brandon Hill, good morning, TVLR crew. Penelope throwing shade at me in the chat, saying, speaking as a grandma, I think Jacob looks so much nicer with his short hair. He looked terrible before, like a hooligan. The last part I ad-libbed.
I was about to say that, yeah, you editorialized a little bit. She was being kind. She was trying to be kind, pay you a compliment, but, take it for what it's worth.
Oh, man. So Leanne says, good morning. Jacob Jones says, good morning. Zach Boff, Unite Here 355 staffer. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Of course, on Facebook, in the Facebook chat, we have Mel and Joe. So, yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to take calls at the top of the second half of the program. So if you want to get your call in, go ahead and get the number ready 844-899 TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. So Teamsters admin staff at UPS are largely non-union. The unionized folks at UPS is a largely union company, but that is primarily, the warehouse workers and the drivers. The administrative staff have, by and large and historically, not been unionized at UPS, and Teamsters is moving to try to make a difference there and to try to organize this historically non-union section of UPS, and they have been successful in Kentucky, where they have unionized admin staff with Local 89, and this Teamsters member, worker in administration at UPS, showed a before and after paycheck around the union. He showed a paycheck before the union win and after the union win, and it was so stark that I just wanted to play this whole clip for you because it's really great. Really happy for him, obviously, and I think it has a lot of educational value. So let's play this clip talking about the union difference.
Hi, I'm Eric Reynolds. I'm a full-time admin at UPS Worldport on Ramp 6, and I've worked at Worldport for the last 21 years. Like other admins, ramp dispatchers have always been non-union, but just recently we joined Teamsters Local 89. Now that I'm a Teamster, I still do the same admin work I always have, but my paycheck looks a whole lot different. I want all the other admins at Worldport to see the difference becoming a Teamster has made for me and my family, because becoming a Teamster can make that same kind of difference for you too. What I have here are two of my checks, one from March 1st, 2024, before my department joined the Teamsters, and one from May 17th, after we became Teamsters and had a contract. On the before check, you can see I had a paid vacation day, and on the after check, I didn't, but both checks are for about 40 hours of pay. When I was non-union, my hourly pay rate was $28.68, but when I became a Teamster, I got a $2.75 raise, so now my pay rate is $31.43. Our contract has a yearly raise in it, so by August 2027, I'll be making $36.18. Before I became union, I paid about $180 per week for my medical, dental, and vision insurance. Thanks to the Teamsters, all I pay now is $18 per week for union dues, and I'm happy to do that because my contract gives me medical, dental, and vision insurance for free. Overall, I make about $240 more on my check since I've become a Teamster. That's around $960 more a month that I made when I was non-union. That's my entire monthly mortgage paid because I joined the Teamsters. Management will try to convince you that becoming a Teamster is a bad thing, but that's just because they don't want you to be able to negotiate for your pay and benefits. I'm proof that becoming a Teamster can make a huge positive change in your life. Live better. Join the Teamsters.
But also, I don't know. I like living in the city, so I guess you have to, if you're going to live in the city, you're going to have a higher mortgage payment. But still, even, entire monthly mortgage paid because he joined the Teamsters. That is huge. Going from, it says they're saying I'm muted. They're saying I'm muted, so I don't know if I think, yeah, back on. So huge difference there. $960 a month, his entire monthly mortgage paid because he joined the Teamsters. Just a absolutely, literally life-changing amounts of money there. His premiums went from $180 a week to $0. That is just enormous amounts of benefit from joining the Teamsters. So it really is illustrative of the benefits that unions can bring to working people. And, again, it's worth just kind of elaborating on a little bit how that happens because, some people, I think that they don't really think very much about it. That maybe they know the statistics, but they're not really sure how that happens, or they think that the unions are kind of like magic or something. But it's material, and it works because when people come together, we are stronger together. Any kind of philosophical or theological or tradition recognizes the strength that people have in numbers. It's not rocket science or some crazy, I only believe this because I'm ideologically motivated to believe it. It shows in the statistics, and it's intuitively, it makes sense. When we are stronger together, and so when we come together and bargain collectively as a union, we can bring down more of the value that we create for the companies and the organizations that we work for, and distribute that value that is created by the workers more evenly. And the reason that works is because, obviously, if you go and bargain yourself, you're the only leverage that you are bringing to the table in an individual negotiation is your individual worth to the company, which, I don't know, maybe you're super smart and fancy pants and all of this kind of stuff, but even granting that, you are not as valuable as you plus the rest of your coworkers, right? And so when you and the rest of your coworkers come together, it is not only additive, it is multiplicative, because you are bringing together not only your individual worth or your individual worths individually, you are bringing it all together as leverage to the table. And the implicit risk there is that the implicit risk in an individual negotiation is that you leave the company and you take your worth with you. And whoop-dee, that's sad and all that, but you can be replaced individually no matter how smart and fancy pants you are. But if you and all of your coworkers leave together, go on strike together, take job actions together, not only are you leaving the company and taking your worth with you, you are completely stymieing the operations of the organization. Right? It's not additive, it's multiplicative. You get more in a union. So join a union, unionize your workforce. unionize your job, be an active member in your union, and you too could have your mortgage paid for by joining a union potentially. So,
hell yeah.
Really quickly before we get to Boss Watch, I just wanted to share this this article from the about Spotify, where the Spotify CEO is now worth more money than any musician in the history of ever. There has never been a musician worth more than the Spotify CEO. And I mean, what value is the Spotify CEO bringing to the table, really? I mean, they...
Evidently more than Paul McCartney.
4 times more than Paul McCartney. I mean, that really kind of goes to, the absurdity of the thing. The idea that the CEO of Spotify has created more value, even in capitalist terms, right? The idea that the Spotify CEO has created more value, 4 times more value than Paul McCartney, is just so kind of absurd on its face that you really start to see the farcity in how, in how wealth is distributed in the system that we're in, because it's just obviously not the case that the person who owns Spotify, and right, that's how he got his wealth, is because he just owns Spotify. It's not even because he's responsible for the upkeep or the design or the programming or the labor that went into that, because really, what did Spotify even do? What was the innovation there? It legalized Groove Shark, right? I mean, I don't know how many people remember Groove Shark, but that went down because of some kind of copyright issues or something. And so Spotify somehow did the same thing, but they were able to find legal mechanisms by which they could do this and pay artists a pittance for the streams that the artists bring to Spotify, and that's basically the innovation there. And so the idea that Daniel Ek is worth $5 billion, 4 times more than the net worth of Paul McCartney. It's just absurd. And Matt Leck, from producer of the Majority Report, host of Left Reckoning, he said on Twitter, "Billionaires are money piñatas. We just need to grab the stick." And I think that's really, I mean, it would be better for society, right, if this guy did not just hoard all of this wealth himself and be able to control all of those resources himself. It's just really, really an absolutely absurd state of affairs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, nobody should have $5 billion, but certainly to get $5 billion because of this app, right? While you pay pennies to the musicians. Like, the only reason people pay for Spotify and listen to Spotify is for the music.
Right.
And ain't none of the folks making the music actually really making any money off this.
Right.
It's wild.
It really is. I mean, it's just absurd. Daniel Ek, who even is this guy? Nobody knows who the CEO of Spotify is.
Don't say that. Then they'll do like a Mark Zuckerberg thing where we have to know about him. Every time you log into Spotify, you get some note from him or something.
Yeah, when you create a Spotify account, you're automatically following Daniel Ek's podcast.
Right, yeah. He'll start putting out techno music or something, and you automatically have to like those songs.
Yeah, it's just really, really bonkers. So, yeah. So let's go ahead and get to Boss Watch. Boss Watch was kind of thin this week, but we do have 3 stories for you. In Kentucky, there was some bosses stealing, if you can imagine.
No.
The U.S. Department of Labor has obtained a court order requiring one of the nation's most successful thoroughbred horse trainers to pay back $250,000 in back wages and an equal amount in liquidated damages after its investigation found the employer's illegal pay practices denied 163 grooms and hot walkers at Churchill Downs and at Keeneland Racetrack in Lexington they denied these workers of overtime wages. The recovery is the latest action brought by the department since 2021 against KDE Equine LLC, founded by Steve Asmussen and operating as Asmussen Racing Stables with about 200 horses in 5 states. This is the 5th time in recent years that investigations by the department's Wage and Hour Division found the company violated federal labor laws. In its order, the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Kentucky affirmed the division's finding that the horse trainer failed to pay overtime wages to hot walkers and grooms. Instead of paying overtime as the law requires, Asmussen paid the employees a salary for all the hours that they worked. Employees were occasionally paid extra money for doing additional work, but they were not paid overtime. Several U.S. Department of Labor investigations have found significant violations related to the way KDE Equine pays its employees, said Regional Solicitor Tremel Howard in Atlanta. When we determined that an employer has violated the rights of its workers to be paid for their full legally earned wages, the Department of Labor will not hesitate to use litigation to hold employers like this, who knowingly disregarded their overtime obligations, accountable under the law. Specifically, the division determined the employer failed to pay non-exempt employees the additional half-time owed based on their regular rates of pay for hours over 40 in a work week. Investigators also found KDE failed to keep accurate pay records and allegedly tried to conceal its Federal Labor Standards Act violations by knowingly modifying its records to make it appear the company did pay employees by the hour. Jeez. In August 2023, the Arlington, Texas-based company entered into a settlement agreement to reimburse grooms and hot walkers $130,000 and pay $75,000 in penalties to resolve violations of the federal H-2B worker program. In September 2021, the division recovered over $500,000 in back wages and damages for 170 employees and assessed $46,000 in penalties after finding Asmussen failed to pay proper overtime compensation to employees for hours over 40 in a work week, concealed hours worked by employees, directed employees to sign incomplete or false timesheets, and did not calculate employees' overtime correctly. KDE Equine operates in Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, New York, and Texas, and has trained thoroughbreds that have won some of the nation's most famous races, including Belmont Stakes and Preakness. Yeah, absolutely crazy stuff that they're able to get away with.
Repeat violator.
Repeat violator. I mean, I mean, literally millions of dollars stolen from employees just since 2021. That's bonkers. That's really, really crazy. In Alabama, this is from AL.com, a Dothan hotel owner has been sued for discrimination by a federal agency that claims a non-binary worker was fired because they showed up to a work meeting with pink nails and wearing braids and capris. The lawsuit filed Thursday in federal court in Dothan alleges Harmony Hospitality, which owns the Home 2 Suites by Hilton Hotel in Dothan, fired a night auditor at the hotel hours after the work meeting. The auditor, only identified by the initials DA, identifies as a non-binary gay male and styled himself in conformity with male gender stereotypes while he worked at the hotel from December 15th, 2021 until the day he was fired, February 9th, 2022, according to the lawsuit filed by the EEOC. During this Pride Month, we want workers to know that they should be able to work in any job without fear of being harassed or fired because of who they are or who they love, said EEOC General Counsel Korea Gilbride. Federal civil rights law, as interpreted by the Supreme Court in Bostock v. Clayton County, makes it illegal to discriminate against an employee for their sexual orientation or gender identity, and the EEOC will vigorously enforce those protections. When the workers showed up to the hotel for the work meeting on February 9th, which was held outside the normal working hours, he styled himself in, and this is according to the lawsuit, he styled himself in capri-cut joggers, pink-painted nails, and box braids. The lawsuit said that this was the first time that DA appeared to work in a style that significantly differed from male gender stereotypes. And one of the hotel owners told him to cut his hair. But the assistant general manager told Patel that doing so, the owner, would constitute discrimination, and Patel told the manager that DA would have to be hidden working nights because of the appearance. Patel's wife, Nisha Patel, identified in the lawsuit as a co-conspirator, was told of the schedule change when she learned of DA's sexual orientation, gender identity, and non-conforming appearance, the suit stated. About 7 hours after the work meeting, DA was fired. In Arkansas, again from AL.com, Tyson Foods has suspended its chief financial officer after a fourth-generation member of the company after his arrest for driving while intoxicated on Thursday. So you can read more about that in AL.com. But Tyson, the great-grandson of the company's founder, which that's how you know that he really deserves to be chief financial officer. He's the great-grandson of the company's founder, right? I mean, obviously, there was nobody, people like to talk about affirmative action and DEI hires, right? And saying, you shouldn't care about race. You shouldn't want a black person in there. You should just want the best person for the job. That's all you should want. Well, clearly this person, the great-grandson of the company's owner, clearly they were the best person for the job, and it wouldn't have been, a black person, right?
Interesting. Yeah. They got some family drama going on at Tyson. But, they keep
child labor stuff?
Yeah, they keep all the executive positions, I guess, inside the family.
Yeah. Really wild stuff. We have a few more minutes before we head into overtime. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We have got
a few plugs.
Folks. Yeah, we got some plugs. We got some folks in the chat. The Teamster 705 in Chicago says that Chicago UPS Jeff Street also has union admin as well, so that's good to hear. Janice says, good morning, friends from UIW, Local 2600, Kent County, Michigan. Scott Davis said it would be better if the workers owned their labor. I agree. I'm a big fan of worker-owned enterprises. Jose says, bien dia, comrades. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We have, we've got some plugs. Talk to us about what's going on here in the area, Adam.
Sure. Labornotes.org/events. If you're not checking that out, you should be. Our friends at Labor Notes do great online trainings every month. They have some this June, and of course, they'll continue throughout the summer. And on the subject of Labor Notes, we are talking to them about trying to bring a troublemaker school down here to Alabama. So if you're interested in helping out with that, definitely hit us up. We'll keep y'all posted. For sure, we'll definitely be promoting that once we get that, further along in development. This week, I did partner with Jennifer Shearer with the Economic Policy Institute for a Unions 101 webinar. It was hosted by the League of Women Voters of Alabama. Really appreciated that opportunity. And it was recorded, right? So if you missed it, hit me up and I can send you the link and you can check that out. It's a good resource to share with folks, especially new members of your union, or maybe just people who are curious and don't know much about unions and would like to know more. If you are a local union member here in North Alabama, just know that the North Alabama Area Labor Council will be meeting on Monday night. That's the 17th, 6 o'clock in Madison. So please do come on out. Again, hit us up if you're interested. I also wanted to mention Alabama Rise is going to be hosting multiple listening sessions throughout the state. We also have some virtual listening sessions called Town Hall Tuesdays coming up this summer. So go to alarise.org and you can find out more there. Definitely encourage people to join Alabama Rise if you're not already a member. We'll have our big meeting in September, so you want to join before then so you can vote on the upcoming issue priorities. And that's about it. Yeah, join Alabama Rise, go to our website, and check out the upcoming events. Labor union members in the area, make sure you show up to the Labor Council on Monday night. We'll definitely appreciate that. And again, labornotes.org. labornotes.org/events. Check that out. They have a lot of great training. Secrets of a Successful Organizer is always a good one to attend. Race and labor. They have grievances, workshops, and other things specifically geared towards stewards. So lots of good training.
Yep. We're going to be heading into overtime here shortly. We've got Shayna Elliot with DSA Labor talking about their Workers Organizing Workers program. We have that interview lined up for overtime. We are also going to be talking about Morena's victory in Mexico, some of the background there, breaking down the Supreme Court Starbucks case as well, and taking a look at a union who was fined over $6 million for striking. Absolutely wild.
What a shame.
It's just, I just cannot believe it. So yeah, we're going to be talking about all that and more. Taking your calls at the top of the second half of the program. If you want to call in, 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857. We'll take your calls here in just a minute. We're going to take a break and be right back with the second half of the program. You can find us continuing to stream on Facebook and YouTube. If you don't, though, we will see you on the radio at the same time next week. All right, folks, off the air. Appreciate everybody staying tuned. Looking forward to the second half of the show. Like I said, 844-899-TVLR, 844-899-8857 if you want to call in. Got a good overtime lined up for you. Yeah, we'll be right back.
Come on, you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell. How the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Folks. I was snacking a little bit. Adam, what is your favorite Pop-Tart flavor?
I'm torn between strawberry and the cinnamon brown sugar.
Strawberry is so gross. I do not like strawberry flavor. That's probably my least favorite.
No, blueberry is the least favorite.
What?
Yeah.
Blueberry's in the top 5.
Oh, well, I didn't know there was a top 5 Pop-Tarts, but I mean, I have a sweet tooth. I've never met a dessert I don't like. So even a bad Pop-Tart, I'll still eat it.
Have you tried the strawberry milkshake flavor?
I have not. No, I wasn't aware there was a milkshake. See, I'm also typically on the great value Pop-Tarts, not the real Pop-Tarts, but the off-brand from the store.
That's right.
The cheap ones.
Yeah. Okay.
That's typically what I'm on.
Yeah. Well, my favorite flavor is strawberry milkshake.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can dig it.
That's what I was snacking on over here. I got one over here that I'm not gonna eat. I'll let you partake if you're so inclined.
All right. Moving on up in the world today. There's lunch.
Name brand.
I got half a strawberry milkshake Pop-Tart waiting for me.
No, a whole Pop-Tart. It's half of the pack.
Oh, okay.
Packs come with 2. I don't know. Do the off-brand not come with 2?
They typically do. I guess it depends on the store, right? But
okay, yeah. Well, no, I'm a whole Pop-Tart.
Okay, cool. Glad to know that's waiting on me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to hurry up and get through the show so I can eat that Pop-Tart.
Yeah, Jake's favorite. If you're so inclined, everybody listening can put your favorite Pop-Tart flavor in the chat. I'd be interested in knowing the breakdown of the audience there. That'd be some good information. We're going to be talking to DSA Labor's Shayna Elliot momentarily about their Workers Organizing Workers program. Looking forward to that. Went to that program's fundraiser at Labor Notes while I was there, so it seemed like a cool thing, and looking forward to it continuing to grow and expand and all of that. Good stuff. Before we talk about that, though, Morena, last week, about a week and a half ago, maybe 10 days ago, something like that, Morena won in a landslide the presidential, state, and congressional elections in Mexico. Morena is the left-wing coalition that is in control of the government. Morena is the left-wing coalition that AMLO comes out of. Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Morena stands for the Movement for National Regeneration. Movimiento al Regener something de Nacional.
You're not doing well. Sorry.
Something like that. Morena.
Appreciate the effort, though.
That's how you get it.
Appreciate
Morena.
Get back on Duolingo.
Yeah. I hear good things about Duolingo, but I've never tried it. Maybe I should. But yeah, so they won. They won in a big way. They won bigly, and the Claudia Sheinbaum was the successor to AMLO, and she actually won by a bigger percentage than AMLO did when he won the presidential election 6 years ago in 2018. They have the presidential election, terms are 1 6-year term. So they're limited to one term, but the term is 6 years.
I kind of like that.
I don't know how I feel about it.
In some ways, it's better than 2 back-to-back 4-year terms.
You think so?
Well, I mean, think about how much of a 4-year term you spend campaigning for the next 4-year term.
I think America's election system is like unique in that way.
It's terrible.
Even among places that have 4-year terms or even less, I think our election system is uniquely long.
Yeah, I think it's. I guess I should take it back and just say, in comparison to the American presidential system, I could see the appeal to that. You get one shot at it. You don't have to focus as much on the re-election.
That's true. There are some benefits to being kind of politically unencumbered. Personally, although I guess
your party is still on the hook for it, right? But yeah, anyway, it's interesting. I always just like seeing what other countries do and how their systems operate, and Interesting to see, in one of the biggest countries in Latin America, a woman leading the way there. So I'm sure all the rich liberals are terribly excited about this, right?
Yeah. Well, the first woman president in North America, also the first Jewish president of Mexico, and maybe the first Jewish president in North America. North America being the United States, Mexico, and Canada. But the allusion to the Richie Rich in Mexico, they're not happy about it. And really, I don't have just a lot to say. Obviously, I'm not an expert on Mexican politics, although I will have some more background for you after I read this. But mainly, I did just want to talk about this so that I could read you the opening 2 paragraphs of a Financial Times article about the election. Because it's so delicious. This is from the Financial Times article. The day after Mexico's left-wing ruling party Morena won a landslide victory in presidential, congressional, and state elections, one company executive, not a public official executive, one executive stayed in bed all day, all afternoon, eating ice cream to try to cope. One wealthy woman in Mexico City told friends it was time to, quote, move to the house in Houston, unquote, while another business leader said his WhatsApp chats were marked by a mood of, quote, collective suicide. Jesus.
Wow.
Did you hear that? The story about her thanking Jesus for the election. Yeah, so she thanked during her election speech she thanked Jesus, and so some particularly Zionists, pro-Israel types, because she's also been critical of Israel in the past, used that to discredit her Jewish credentials. They were saying she's not Jewy enough for me, right?
Oh, wow.
And so that was, but because she thanked Jesus in her concession speech, but turns out it's her husband.
Oh.
Jesus. She was thanking her husband, Jesus.
That tracks. Yeah.
So that was like a whole thing on Twitter for like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Pro-Israel, people saying that she's not Jewy enough. Because
I'm really glad I'm not on Twitter. Appreciate you filling me in on the important happenings going on there. It is always weird when people dig into folks' identities and try to question that. And I'm sorry, but people are what they are. And I ain't going to ask too many questions. Just be yourself. And, I'll respect that. But that's always weird when people try to weaponize it.
Yeah, it's super, super weird.
But back to Mexico, in terms of
in terms of the politics.
In terms of the politics in Mexico, the fact that these executives and ruling elites are so scared is probably a good sign. I'm with you. I don't know a ton about Mexican politics. I'm sure there are some mixed track records to deal with in terms of the last 6 years in office with the party. I'm sure they haven't pleased everybody. But, the fact that their ruling elite is so terrified means, I don't know, maybe they actually will have to pay more in taxes or something.
Right.
God forbid.
Well, the history of Morena, even though there is some mixed results, particularly as it relates to organized crime, with the cartels and everything like that.
And the environment.
The environment, that's been an issue with AMLO. He's taken a more kind of conservative position on that. And one of the hopes of the left with Claudia's future administration is that she actually was a climate scientist. That was the trade that she was in, being a climate scientist.
Wow.
So there's some hope there that she's going to be better on the environment maybe than AMLO was.
Sure.
But so the environment, organized crime, there's still some problems there in Mexico. Not, even though folks like David Frum, I think that's his name, in The Atlantic, are trying to paint it as, he said something in The Atlantic trying to make it seem like, oh, this is such a bad thing. And one of the lines that he said was, even though organized crime is as bad as it was when AMLO took office, which is another way to say it hasn't gotten worse, right? I mean,
right.
you know,
well, this is also a gentleman who believed it was okay to drop bombs on Iraqi children for lies. So,
right.
You know,
take
his opinion with a grain of salt, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, even though there's still a problem, there's not any evidence that the organized crime, the cartels, have gotten worse under AMLO, which is, you know, I mean, that, you know, maintaining a stasis is better than it decreasing. But coupling that with the economic trajectory of Mexico under AMLO and Morena, it's been largely good. So wages for working class people since 2018 in real terms have increased by 35%. Which is notable, especially when we're talking about since 2020, Mexico has seen similar problems with inflation and the like. So seeing a 35% wage growth in real terms for Mexico's working class, even as the economy itself has not been skyrocketing. So the economy itself has grown 2% year over year GDP growth. And so what that means is that virtually all of the growth and then some of what existed prior to that growth was moved from the executive class, from, you know, the people who were crying and eating ice cream all afternoon after Sheinbaum won, from those types of people to working folks over the course of AMLO's presidency. We've also seen with, one of the few good things that happened during the Trump administration was the USMCA, and AMLO's government has been cooperative and supportive in the new increased labor protections for Mexican workers under the USMCA. We're seeing now a new kind of nascent independent union movement combating the prolific company unionism that exists in Mexico. So, you know, I mean, there are really a lot of things to like about AMLO's presidency, particularly if you're a working class person. And that's why actually, I was listening to some interviews of some Mexican journalists, and they were saying that, you know, from AMLO's election in 2018 to Sheinbaum's election in 2024, the coalition that Morena won with has actually solidified and is more class-based even than it was in 2018. Like AMLO apparently pulled more from kind of a nicer business class in 2018, whereas Sheinbaum, it really almost all came from the working class, and where the working class was kind of de-aligned to a certain extent in 2018, it's really kind of configured and congealed in support of Morena and Sheinbaum. So yeah, lots of reasons to be optimistic about Mexico's future, and all power to the workers. So we have on the line Shayna Elliot, a member of the steering committee of the Democratic Socialists of America's Labor Commission, to talk about their WOW program, Workers Organizing Workers. Shayna Elliot, welcome to the program. Is she muted, or have we muted her, or Can you hear us, Shayna?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Now you can hear. Yeah, welcome to the program. Really excited to be talking to you this morning.
Oh, great. Sorry. Thanks. Yeah, really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shayna, can you talk to us about your, just generally speaking, even though DSA is now, one of the largest left-wing organizations in the history of the U.S., it's still relatively minor, and also the labor movement is in a similar situation. The labor movement has been declining over the last several decades. So what was it that brought you as a young person from the South, actually from Tennessee, wanted to make sure give that shout out. What was it that brought you to wanting to be a participant, an active participant in the labor movement? And we'll start there and we can talk about DSA after that. What was it that brought you to the labor movement?
Yeah. I was a student during COVID, taking some time off school. And, COVID was a time that I think brought a lot of attention to workers and the work that they were doing, facing those terrible conditions, lack of safety protocols at their workplaces. And they were having to go in, every day, these frontline workers ranging from, service workers at the grocery store to Amazon workers working to get your packages out, and UPS drivers, lots of logistics workers, healthcare workers, all these people were, facing the front line, and were really, I think it was really kind of on display, the ways that they were, being taken advantage of and exploited. And that really kind of got me thinking about, why do a couple hundred people have all this wealth, have all these protections during such a dangerous and risky time for everyone? And then the workers, who are going in, risking their health, their family's health and safety on a daily basis, we're getting comparatively pennies to what these big CEOs, these owners of these companies were making. And, that just didn't really seem right to me. So I started reading about labor organizing and the power that workers had, because even though, it leads to a lot of exploitation, that these workers are the ones going in every day. They're on the shop floor doing the work, making the products or moving or delivering the products that are making these CEOs millions, billions of dollars. That also gave them this, extra power, where if those workers decide, to take action, to sit down on the job for a day, to walk out, to have a petition, to demand higher safety protocols and procedures at their workplace, that they could win that, because just like we recognize that we're the ones going in day to day to get these products delivered, to do whatever we need to do to make sure this company is running smoothly, that also gives us power, that we are the ones. So the products get delivered because we're there, not because the managers or the CEOs are there. And having that be the reality means that, we have such amazing power to do these actions, to strike, and to demand what we need to do our job safely, to protect our families, and to make sure that, long term, we have stability, we have job security, we have pay that keeps up with the crazy levels of inflation and everything we're seeing right now. So that's definitely what brought me into the labor movement, and I'm sure I'll say more as we continue talking.
Right. And then, what about DSA? I think that I imagine there's a pretty similar trajectory there with some other things mixed in as to why you wanted to be involved in DSA. But, particularly as somebody from the South, where it's somewhat different today. But, when I was growing up and as a kid, I mean, even liberal was the dirty word, right? I mean, oh no, you're a liberal. And now, people can use liberal as a pejorative, both from the left and the right. And so, what kind of brought you to DSA as somebody from the South and who is, coming into who was coming into a belief that labor is really critical for, making society better for working people?
Yeah, definitely. I think kind of you touched on this a little bit, but the idea that there's kind of a liberalism separate from the leftism that maybe we identify with was really interesting to me, because as I was starting to think about these worker issues and the fact that, workers were in these conditions that were just so unsafe, as showcased during COVID, but also has been going on for decades and centuries even, starting to think about the fact that those voices were really not present in the kind of traditional liberal paths, whether that's the Democratic Party or other types of liberal groups that are very pervasive across the country and world, that those were not really spaces for workers to speak up, to learn how to organize, to have their voices, their extensive knowledge of their careers and the jobs that they did, whether that's, mining coal or being electricians or doing any of these skilled jobs that you really learn a lot about by doing them. And so it was a lot of the kind of liberal rhetoric was very top down in a way that I really did not resonate with or identify with. And it still felt kind of like, the capitalist class, the bosses talking about workers in a way that didn't really center their experience or give them real democracy over their job, their workplace, and their lives outside of work and inside of work. So I was really, looking for a group of people and a place where I could, learn how to organize better, understand these worker issues in ways that I felt like I couldn't really understand through the lens of the Democrat and Republican Party, through liberal or conservative views. Like, I felt like there was no space that really captured the kind of frustrations that I was feeling about, workers being taken advantage of and exploited on such a mass scale on a daily basis. So DSA really kind of came to me because I was, doing some labor organizing and working with a couple people who were training me, who were teaching me about, what makes good organizing, what is organizing on the job, what do things like the rank and file and shop floor mean. And as I was, learning about that, I was with a lot of people who happened to be in DSA because I think for some of the same reasons that I just described, it felt like the place that was really taking on these worker issues head on, that was willing to come out and say explicitly in ways that, liberals and Democrats I don't think are, that, power is in the working class. Power is working people taking action on behalf of themselves and their coworkers and their families, and that's the kind of organizing, the kind of political structures that we should be supporting when, 90+% of people are in that type of job. They're selling their labor to make money to feed their family. Like, that is the reality for so many people. And I don't think that, the elite classes that currently, career politicians, people who haven't had working class jobs and don't understand what that exploitation feels like and looks like on a daily basis, that those people were not in the Democratic Party and they're not liberals. They're DSA, they're socialists, and in most cases, they're workers who, work the job day to day, whatever political ideology they identify with. Like, that is the group of people who we should be listening to, who we should be uplifting their voices, helping them get into positions where they can, enact policies based on their positions. And all of those things were things that DSA wanted to do. So I think my desire to join the labor movement, to support, working class organizing, working class power, working class democracy, all of these things, it seems like the kind of home of where they all coincide is in DSA. So that's why I decided to join. I'm most involved in the labor work there because of everything I've been describing. I really care about building up the labor movement. When we see things like the correlations between, wealth inequality and union density, that like those things show that labor organizing is where we can build power and take our lives back and, fight these things like income inequality and lack of, basic human rights being met, lack of humanity being given to us at work, treated like machines and robots. I used to organize at Amazon and work at a warehouse there. And these things became so much more clear to me as I was in such an exploitative position where, the bosses just harass us on a daily basis. They treat us terribly. They give us a hard time for going to the bathroom on a 12-hour shift. All of these things even crystallize even more what I had kind of thought during COVID, during all these times, that, workers are the ones with power and we need to be grabbing that power and taking it back and fighting the capitalist class, whether that's liberals, conservatives, anyone. We need to fight on behalf of our interests because they're surely fighting on behalf of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
When Amazon workers in Alabama were really in the thick of their campaign, we did a show from the Union Hall down there in Birmingham, and that was one of the things that they that they were talking about that was most frustrating to them and some of the other workers, and most surprising to me about how closely their quote time off task was, how closely monitored the TOT was, and yeah, it can feel, I'm sure, incredibly dehumanizing to have everything about every action that you take on your job, which is where you spend the majority of your waking life, monitored by people whose job it is to, extract as much profit from your body as possible, and who are going to fire you if you, walk a little bit too slowly. It's just, sounds absolutely terrible, and that's why, I mean, obviously we're supportive of it. Anybody organizing a union, I think everybody should have a union, including clickety-clack workers like me who have a desk job. I think everybody deserves a union, but in particular, folks like that, I think are in desperate need of unionization and protection from folks like Bezos and whoever has replaced him at the top of that company now. Just absolutely terrible things going on. And one of the programs that DSA has to try to help workers as they organize against their exploitation is the Labor Commission's WOW program, Workers Organizing Workers, and it's really centered, the theory for it is centered around what's called the rank and file strategy. Can you explain how DSA sees the rank and file strategy, what it means to DSA and how the Workers Organizing Workers program is kind of implementing that in the real world?
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of have mentioned this or alluded to it so far on the show, but the rank and file strategy is the idea that the rank and file, so that's, workers on their job with their coworkers, on the shop floor, the ones who are doing the work day in and day out, who are being surveilled by their managers, all of this, that these are the people who, have the power to change society. And the reason why I think many of us believe in the rank and file strategy is, one, from history. We see that, big changes won for workers from things as, far back as the 8-hour workday all the way till recently, cost of living adjustments, better contracts to keep up with inflation, COVID protections. All of these things have been won through the rank and file taking action. So like I said, that can be through, writing a petition, getting your coworkers to sign it, taking it to your boss and demanding these conditions. Otherwise, we will escalate. We will walk out on the job. We will strike. And I think we've seen very recently as, the end of last year with the UAW strike, the stand-up strike across multiple facilities for the big three automakers, that that works. And when we see these statistics about, UPS, when there was the strike threat last summer, UPS losing billions of dollars per day that the workers don't strike, they cannot afford that. They will give in to our demands. And that exact power that they can't afford to run their company without our labor shows how much power we have. And when UPS and Amazon, they're moving upwards of 10, 12, 14% of the US GDP every night in their trucks. And with that power, with that amount of capital in your hands, having this power to take action, to withhold your labor, the one thing we have, we sell them our labor, but we can withhold it. The same way they can withhold our benefits, they can withhold our bathroom breaks, we can withhold the thing that gives them their profits, to take action, to make our lives better, to get what we need to do our job safely, to give ourselves peace of mind, to have luxury time with our family, to, do whatever we want. We deserve that. Everyone deserves that. We shouldn't have to work 15 hours a day to pay rent by some corporate landlord that's, raking in billions of dollars every year. So the rank and file strategy is really the idea that if we want to make change in society, I think we all share this idea that, a better world is possible. We don't have to put up with exploitation, with this terrible treatment, that if we can, take action on the job, that we can win these things. So this is the idea that, this change comes from the rank and file. And if you believe in this change, if you believe that, workers deserve more, politicians right now are ignoring what workers need and want, all of these things, that we should be becoming part of this organization, that we should be, working with our coworkers to form a union, to make our unions better, to make our unions work for us, whether that's, taking a job like at Amazon, or if you already work at Amazon, deciding to organize there to get a new union at non-union workplaces, or whether that's, deciding that I am a union member, but my union is really not encouraging me to take this action. It's not envisioning the world that I think is possible. And I'm going to try to fix that. I'm going to get together with my coworkers because, who is the union other than its members? So we can change things if we decide that that's what we want. So this is kind of the ideology behind Workers Organizing Workers, or the WOW committee that you've been talking about, Jacob. And the idea that, if people believe in this type of change, if people believe that workers deserve more, that these, couple hundred people who own over 50% of the country's wealth, crazy statistics, that's wrong, that we need to start that fight on the shop floor. So whether that's, abandoning your your desk job to go work at Amazon, whether that's taking the job you already have and starting to organize with your coworkers, getting a couple meetings outside of work, thinking about what people need to do this job safely, to do this job better in a way that supports, them as a person, not as a robot worker. That these are the kinds of organizing that we're going to be supporting. So we are kind of focusing on some strategic industries, like I've mentioned before, places like logistics that really have this crazy leverage over capital. And that's also auto manufacturing and service work, and education, jobs that are, really crucial to social reproduction. These are really strategic industries because not only do we have the kind of power of workers that all workers have, but we also have this extra leverage where, they're losing $7 billion if we strike for one day. These types of leverage points mean that we can really make big demands, both demands that affect us on the shop floor, like we need more breaks, we need shorter work days, we need protections from COVID, whatever it is on the shop floor, ranging to like what we call common good demands that really benefit all of us, that protect us from, anything that's going to be coming our way in the next couple decades, extreme weather events from climate or anything. Like, we can make those demands. Whatever the workers want, we can demand it. Like, unions are really one of the only places that workers have true democracy and control over what happens to them and what demands they want to make and what political actions they want to take. So Workers Organizing Workers is a kind of training program and mentorship program for people who want to learn how to organize, whether that's in the jobs they're already in or if they want to take a job to join the labor movement and organize in one of these kind of strategic sectors. So Workers Organizing Workers runs worker-led training programs on organizing, and then we kind of help people figure out what job they want to work in, what union they want to join, or what union they want to try to help start. We kind of help them get that job through, people who have had the job, knowing what the process is like. And then we, get people mentors. So there's kind of this really long legacy ranging from people who in the 70s decided to get jobs in auto plants to organize and strengthen the UAW, all the way back, to people becoming steelworkers in the 40s and deciding to do the same work. So this, we're not inventing this. We're joining a very long tradition of this type of organizing, of people who believe that the shop floor is where things happen, is where big societal change that sometimes it feels that we can't even begin to imagine because we are, so beat into the ground at our jobs and we don't even have time to think and relax and just like have time to ourselves. But when we really do think about it and we do imagine a better world for all of us, I think that starts on the shop floor, and that starts with, learning how to organize, learning what organizing is. I think it, like you said about liberal, it can sometimes be a dirty word or something that's used and leveraged in propaganda against workers to make it seem like it's other people coming in and agitating. But I think we all know from being workers and talking to our coworkers that like, this is the type of thing that workers want, workers need, that like we are struggling to make enough to buy our groceries, and we are struggling to be seen as human on our jobs, where, like you said, we spend most of our days. So that's kind of the goal of the Workers Organizing Workers program and the rank and file strategy, getting people into these jobs where they have additional leverage because of the way the company works or the way it's contracted. And, using that position on the shop floor, understanding what the issues are at work among your coworkers, figuring out, where the choke points are at work, what time of day is the work being moved in such a way that you have real power in that moment to walk out of the job, to take an action, to take a stand against your boss, and supporting people in that process. So learning how to identify these leaders, how to, decide who's interested in organizing, how to even figure that out among your coworkers, and then having kind of support long-term, both for figuring out, what type of world do we imagine and thinking about some of those political questions. And then also kind of the nuts and bolts of organizing. What do we do when the boss is running a really strong an aggressive anti-union campaign, which is something, of course, hundreds of thousands, millions of people have dealt with in the last year alone. So there is a lot of experience. There's a wealth of knowledge of people who know how to organize in such a big range of conditions. And we really want workers right now to be able to have access to that, to talk to mentors and people who also imagine a better world and think that we can win that on the shop floor.
Right. And the rank and file strategy is really, like you said, it's a theory of change, and it's a theory of change that purports that, the driver of society is at least can be, and in many cases is, working people in strategic industries and their organizations. And it's often counterposed to other theories of change that would say, to idealistic young people to quote, go into politics, or maybe try to work on a political campaign, and that's how you're going to affect change. You're going to work as a staff for a really important politician and maybe influence them individually, on an ideas level, and try to make change that way. Or maybe you want to work for a nonprofit and do research and things like this as a job for a nonprofit, and that's kind of how the rank and file strategy basically it exists in a grouping of different theories of change, and so I guess I'm interested in why you think that, or what the DSA line is, or your own individual thoughts on why that is. If I'm an idealistic young person, what Shayna is telling me right now is that the best way that I can change society is go, work in a UPS warehouse potentially, or some, within one of these strategic industries, healthcare, education, logistics. That's going to be the best way to actually, and then organize. Obviously, you can't just do the job and then go home. You got to organize and do it. But taking one of these jobs in one of these strategic industries and then organizing, that's what I should do if I want to change the world. I'm an idealistic young person. I think the world should be better. Instead of, and society pushes us towards the other theories of change, right? Like, when I was kind of undergoing my politicization and I was kind of coming into a political consciousness and thinking about how, how I could change the world or whatever, the first thing that I was kind of pushed into was, oh, well, I don't know. I guess I should join the college Democrats, right? And I should knock doors for Walt Maddox as he's running for governor of Alabama as a Democrat on a campaign of being pro-gun and anti-abortion and anti-tax, and somehow still calling himself a Democrat. So yeah, why, if I'm an idealistic young person, why should I go work at UPS instead of, working on a campaign?
Yeah, well, I think you really touched on what I think is the most important answer to this, which is society is pushing us to do these kind of traditional liberal paths, whether that's a nonprofit or working for a Democrat. And I think the first question that I really learned to ask is why? Why is society, as we know, is really just another name for the kind of controlling group, the ruling class, the capitalists, whatever we want to call them. Why do they have an interest in pushing us away from organizing and towards something like electoral politics or, nonprofits? And I think when you really dig deeper and try to answer that question, it's that they know those are not real challenges to the types of inequalities and exploitation that we're seeing right now. They know that getting one Democrat elected who, as you said, might not even have policies that are pro-worker or anything like that, that does not create the world that we want to see. That does not necessarily, we've seen both in our generation and before times where there was a lot of liberal power, a big majority in Washington, D.C., and things didn't change much for workers. As we see now in 2024, we're struggling on a day-to-day basis to just get basic protections, to to not have to work 3 jobs. Like, these are things that, they were fighting for 100 years ago. And when we see the types of methods that have been employed by, naive maybe, but hopeful young people, that when they've tried to make progress on these things through these kind of conventional paths, it doesn't work. We see workers struggling for the same things they've been struggling for. And that just kind of is evidence to me that this is not how change happens. We can make maybe very marginal changes. We can protect, a couple homes in a hurricane by having better, electrical infrastructure. But to change things on a big scale, to give people protections and peace of mind that I think we all kind of envision for the world, that we should be thinking about, where does society, where does the ruling class not want us to go? Because they have an interest against workers. And so the places that they're pushing us, whether that's, in these big college settings, whether that's, in mainstream media, what they're telling young people to do, all of these things, that those are all interests kind of against workers, or against at least the big transformative things that I think we all imagine for workers. So as we think about, who's telling us what and why, we know that so many decisions and people's interests are based in how they can make more money, how they can create like longevity for this type of system that keeps a huge majority of society in a very, very low and exploited place. So I think that's kind of my answer to why those traditional paths have sometimes not been as successful as we want in making real change for the working class. And then I think also conversely, we see like the big wins that have been won by labor. And despite the fact that we are fighting in many ways the same fights, we see kind of some lights at the end of the tunnel. We see things like the big UAW strike and the Teamster strike threat and the contracts that those massive hundreds of thousands of worker strong unions have been able to win for themselves. And that is just a very small early stage blueprint for what, the next century could look like if we kind of all take on this strategy, the rank and file strategy, and decide that this is how we're going to fight for a better world.
All right, Shayna, you've convinced me. I'm an idealistic young person. I'm going to industrialize. What's next? How do I get involved with the Workers Organizing Workers program? Where do I find more information?
Yeah, so we have a lot of information. I kind of described the process as, the trainings and then getting the job and then being mentored. So, maybe because of everything we've been talking about, obviously there's a big interest against this type of organizing. So we kind of try to keep it off as many places as we can, and talk about it on places like this where, it seems like the listeners might be interested. So I can try to give you some information, Jacob, and maybe you can share that with the listeners in the kind of stream of this show afterwards. Does that work?
Yeah, that'd be fine. If you're interested in participating in this program, send us a note at tvlr.fm/contact. tvlr.fm/contact. Leave a note saying I'm interested in the DSA Labor's Workers Organizing Workers program, and we will forward your information to Shayna. Shayna Elliot, steering committee member of DSA's Labor Commission. Thank you very much for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Excited to talk to some of the listeners soon, I hope, and really an honor to be here. So thanks, Jacob.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks. 844-899-TVLR is the phone number, 844-899-8857. If you want to call in, you have a question, you want to add your thoughts to a topic that we discussed earlier in the show.
Yeah, I was really glad to hear about this program, and I think it's really important because to your point, there are always people who have these moments where they kind of wake up, right? Or these moments where they feel like they just have to do something. They have to get involved. They have to make a difference. And this is not necessarily going to be the first recourse for a lot of people, right? To go get a strategic job in a strategic industry. But I want to encourage anyone listening, if you are in a situation in your life where you're looking for a job, You are looking for a change. Maybe you're ready for something different. You're a student who's about to enter the workforce. Think about where you can work and how it can impact organizing. If you would like to work at a coffee shop, maybe you should work at a Starbucks, right? If you're interested in finding a union environment, there are union environments you can go work for, and you can get involved in the union and learn more about the union, push the union to be stronger, more militant, more democratic, more organized, right? So it depends on where you want to go. If you want to, potentially take on new organizing, or if you would like to, join a place that's already been organized. But yeah, I just really want to encourage, because I know there's got to be somebody listening right now. That's the stage of life you're in, whatever, age or background you may have. You're in a spot where you're looking for a new job. You're going to change jobs soon. Think about the organizing potential with this job. And also, if you're in a situation where you're ready to quit your job, you hate your job, it sucks, you're ready to quit, try to organize before you quit. Just a pro tip. Once you quit, you're probably not going to make any changes there, right? But that is also the most common reaction, right? People are told, well, just get a better job, just get a different job, right? As if like the new job's problems are going to be such a drastic difference, right? And the new bosses are going to be so much better than the old bosses. But I heard about this in the situation here in Alabama, where, there's been rumblings of organizing, and the workers decided to just up and quit. Several of them. And enough of them that had they stayed, they could have been the organizing committee for a campaign, right? They would have been able to organize their workplace and potentially make their jobs a lot better and potentially change people's lives for a long time to come, right? Not just their own, but all of their coworkers and those who will come after them. So, if you're at that point in your life where you're ready to quit, you're ready, just throw your hands up in the air, why not try to organize? Folks will help you. It's all too often that, people just run into barriers. They're not really sure what to do. But if you find the right people willing to help you, you can do it. Folks have organized any kind of workplace you can imagine, any kind of worker you can imagine, with any kind of background you can imagine. Folks have done it. They have organized. And so you can do it too.
Jose said, I wish for the day of a national logistics master contract covering Amazon, UPS, FedEx, and DHL.
Right on.
From your fingertips to God's ears, Jose. Brandon concurs, saying, have to say a national logistics master contract would be amazing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's doable if enough people engage in the rank and file strategy, bringing it around full circle. We had some people contribute in the chat, letting us know their favorite Pop-Tart flavors. Let's see. Jacob Jones says cherry Pop-Tarts all the way. I'm not a big fan. The Teamsters 630 Dairy Workers. So this is presumably the consensus. There was presumably a vote taken because this is the official Teamsters 630 account. So it's this is the official
the Teamsters line.
The Teamsters local 630 official Pop-Tart. Are you ready? Are you ready for it?
I think so.
Is s'mores.
Ooh.
The official Pop-Tart of the Teamsters Local 630 is s'mores.
I don't think I've tried that one yet.
It's good. It's good. It's also top 5. It's also in my top 5. Leanne says, any red, cherry or strawberry, occasionally fudge, but not often. Not a fan of any other flavor.
I will say the fudge is much better when it's toasted.
Ooh, yeah.
Much better. Some Pop-Tarts I can eat just, right out of the box, but some really need to be toasted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mostly I eat mine out of the box, although sometimes I will put them on a plate and microwave them, and then I'll remove the back and eat the back of both of the Pop-Tarts, and then put together the two icing sides of the Pop-Tart and have a double icing on each side Pop-Tart.
Wow. Okay.
So...
We appreciate everyone tuning in to the Valley Labor Report's Pop-Tart Special Edition. Pop-Tart, if you'd like to sponsor an ad, please do hit us up. There was a Pop-Tart football game, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, there was, the bowl games that happen around Christmas and New Year's. I'm pretty sure there was a Pop-Tarts bowl. So,
there you go.
Maybe.
There was also a Pop-Tarts movie that Jerry Seinfeld did. Did you see that?
I had no idea.
Pop-Tarts the movie.
Okay.
Written and directed and starred in by Jerry Seinfeld. He's been on this kick going around talking about how everybody's too woke these days and nobody can take a joke. So the Pop-Tarts movie was he was really able to let go of the political correctness and make some really important points in it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Appreciate his commentary there.
Brandon says favorite flavor is just cherry. Reese says, therefore, be it resolved that we hold yearly elections with ranked choice voting to select the official Pop-Tart flavor of the union. I would not be opposed to that. Maybe we can take a vote at the Labor Council meeting on Monday. Next up, we've got... So Elon Musk is the CEO of Tesla. Not sure if you were aware of that, Adam, but he's also the CEO somehow of SpaceX and X, formerly known as Twitter.
Right.
So he is the CEO of 3 companies, and so like a third-time CEO.
I thought that being a CEO was a full-time job, though.
Yeah.
I thought that they worked, 100 hours
incredibly
a week or
hard,
something really wild.
Something ridiculous. But so even though he's only a third-time CEO at Tesla, and it's really difficult to kind of gauge how much is he actually spending 30% of his working time at Tesla? Because it seems like the majority of the time he is on Twitter tweeting memes and his political thoughts of the day and replying to white supremacists on Twitter and all of this kind of stuff.
And saying that Germany's far right isn't that bad.
Right,
They're just being misunderstood.
Yeah, the AFD is misunderstood for sure. That's never, that's never happened in the history of Germany. People in the West,
underestimating the far right.
The far right in Germany. It's no reason for concern there. But Elon, you would think he's third times. He's a third-time CEO at Tesla, as in a third of his time, not the third time. 1/3 time CEO of Tesla. But it's unclear how much of his time he actually spends there. Even though that is the case, he is requesting just from Tesla now, right? We're not even talking about his compensation from SpaceX or Twitter. Just from Tesla, he is requesting the largest compensation package in the history of the world. There has never been even an inflation-adjusted compensation package even remotely close to what Tesla's shareholders just approved for Elon Musk. It is $56 billion with a B. Google's CEO's compensation package is only $226 million. Only $226 million for Google CEO, right? But for Elon, it is $56 billion. It's just absolutely, it's mind-blowing. It's a mind-blowing amount of money that we're talking about here for Elon. And it's coming amid, not the best time for Tesla. This is not, Tesla has had better years, let's just say. And More Perfect Union has a rundown of some of the issues that Tesla has been, facing this year. We clipped it. And so let's play this clip of Elon's stewardship of Tesla.
We do remember that one with Mark Wayne Mullen, the senator.
No,
and I just want to refresh people's memories in case they forgot. We got a little heated. Take a look.
Let me read with the last.
Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, there we go. Sorry. I don't know if we have a clip titled Elon in there. Negative, we do not. Okay, so we didn't pull that clip, but sorry, I thought we had before the show. My bad.
Check out More Perfect Union.
Check out More Perfect Union. Go find them on Twitter, and you'll be able to find that clip. But the information in there is some of the things that we talked about in the Last Week in Southern Labor, where Tesla's share price has decreased by 30% year to date. Just in the last 6 months, Tesla's share price has decreased by 30%. The Cybertruck sales have been marred by recalls and all sorts of controversy, people breaking their fingers in the front trunk. It's just absolutely ludicrous timing for this kind of package for the CEO of Tesla. Tesla has laid off 14,000 workers worldwide, 3,000 just in Texas alone, and we're talking about giving the CEO of the company that is in this big a trouble the largest compensation package in the history of the world. Additionally, this will dilute the shares of all of the other shareholders by 10%. Every single share of Tesla, because the way that this compensation package is being generated is they are creating shares, so there's like stock buybacks are kind of market manipulation to increase the share price by the company buying back stocks that exist on the market and eliminating them, so there are fewer stocks total. So then, therefore, supply and demand, the price of each stock increases, right? So that's how stock buybacks work. So in this compensation package, they are generating new stocks, and so if there are more stocks now after this compensation package goes through, then each stock is going to be worth less. And this happens with any compensation package for a CEO, but typically the dilution for the remaining shares are something on the order of 1% or maybe 2, maybe 3%. We're talking about a 10% dilution of shares for this compensation package for Elon. So that's going to be bad for all the shareholders. And of course, there's a bunch of wealthy shareholders that we're not super concerned about their, about the state of their shares. Like if Elon's buddies, like Kimball Musk, I'm not super concerned about his stock portfolio. But those people are not the only folks who have shares in Tesla. There are also pension systems. CalPERS, the California pension system, the teachers union's pension in New York has $600 million worth of shares in Tesla. And so this is so not only is this just bad in a business sense for all the other wealthy folks, this working people are also some of the folks who are footing the bill for this insane payment package for Elon Musk. So it's all around bad. It's also going to increase his control of the company. Currently, he has something like 14% share. 14% of the shares. After this payment package is going to have nearly a quarter of the shares. So it will increase his control of the company in a company that is already run by Musk toadies, as is evidenced by the fact that the shareholders were willing to vote in this ludicrous pay package. I mean, it's just all of this are reasons that this pay package should not go through. But the thing that is most frustrating to me, is the fact that this comes literally only months after the layoffs of 14,000 people.
Wow.
14,000 people laid off worldwide. without an income. I mean, we know what it means to be without a job in this country and in many countries across the world. But in this country in particular, being without a job means that you don't have an income. You don't have a way to pay for your health care, for your mortgage, for your rent, for groceries, all of these things. Not having a job can literally make you homeless. We're talking about the financial destitution of thousands of people as he takes a $56 billion pay package. It is really, I mean, if that's not something that makes your blood boil, then, it's difficult to imagine the kind of person that you are. It should not be happening. Should not be allowed to happen. And in fact, some shareholders, and in particular some of the stewards of these pension trust funds, tried to block the move because the company is headquartered in Delaware, and so Delaware has, I think, stronger shareholder rights for companies, and they have more leverage in Delaware than maybe they do in other states, and so they brought a challenge to it back in 2018 when this package was first proposed. So he's been really trying to get this $56 billion pay package for a long time. Shareholders brought a suit against the execution of this pay package. And so the court said that, okay, if you're going to do this, you have to have a shareholder vote. It can't just be a board vote, right? The board of directors can't vote and make this happen. It has to be a shareholder vote. And well, the shareholders voted, and they agreed to, the total of them, even though there were a lot of pension systems and stuff aligned against it. There were, more of the wealthy types who were in agreement to give Elon Musk this $56 billion pay package. And so it went through, and it's unclear. It's unclear to me. I think perhaps if you read about it enough, you would know the next steps in actually executing this. But I don't think it's exactly a done deal yet. I do think there's still a few more hoops that Elon is going to have to jump through to be able to pull down this $56 billion pay package. But yeah, it's just it really is frustrating. In particular amid this time of thousands of working people being laid off by Tesla, and they're giving him the largest pay package in the history of the world. It's just absolutely unjustifiable.
Right, and he actually threatened to move to Texas. He threatened to move the company from Delaware to Texas if he couldn't get this package, and also apparently, threw out there that he would have to go make cars somewhere else if he couldn't get his, $50+ billion package. Right. Absolutely ludicrous.
Yes, absolutely ludicrous. Another ludicrous story comes out of the Supreme Court. The
surprise.
Yeah, the anti-worker Supreme Court released another anti-worker decision, if you can believe it. This was as it relates to Starbucks and the Memphis 7. There were 7 baristas who were fired by Starbucks in Memphis amid a union campaign by Starbucks Workers United. The NLRB, because the firings were so egregious, sought a 10-J injunction to, and so just to kind of general overview of 10-J injunctions, basically they do not totally adjudicate on the completely on the merits. I mean, there are some merits involved in it, and you have to show like a reasonable amount that the NLRB's assertion could be true. But what the 10-J injunctions do is they enjoin a company from continuing to act in a certain way that would dissuade people from participating in union campaigns or from showing union support. And so the NLRB sought a 10-J injunction and to order Starbucks to rehire these 7 baristas in Memphis, while the process was going through the NLRB and the administrative law judge would, because these things take years, and so the 10-J injunction is like, okay, well, while we figure everything out, because it's reasonable to expect that the NLRB is going to win. It's possible that they don't ultimately in the end, but because there's a reasonable amount of confidence that they're going to win. In the meantime, the 10J injunction says you got to rehire these people, or you got to stop discriminating against, or you got to stop doing this or that illegal anti-union behavior, right? That's what a 10J injunction does. And so there are two tests that a court can use to rule on these, right? And so the NLRB has argued for a two-prong test, and Starbucks argued for a four-prong test that, as you can imagine, is more strenuous and more difficult to meet. And so that was the source of the case. Does the NLRB have to meet the two-prong test or the four-prong test? The Supreme Court sided with Starbucks, saying that you have to meet the four-prong test. And so that's why Brandon Magner said that materially this is probably not going to have a huge impact on how the NLRB pursues 10J injunctions, because even under Jennifer Abruzzo, the degree to which the NLRB pursues 10J injunctions is still relatively small, and they only do it in these bulletproof cases. They're only arguing on the two-prong test so far, but all of the cases, so Brandon argues, an NLRB attorney, so, I'm willing to kind of generally trust that is the case, and it is the case that it's not as if the NLRB is going around seeking 10J injunctions all the time. It is fairly rare, and so Brandon says, generally these cases are going to meet the four-prong test anyway, right? But the NLRB has only been arguing the two-prong test so far, and that's how judges have been deciding. KBJ, in a partial dissent, said that, the NLRA says that generally we should be deferring to the NLRB in matters relating to the adjudication of the National Labor Relations Act, and this court is stepping all over that, and that's obviously true. But SCOTUS blog has a good explanation of the two-prong versus the four-prong test, just to help you understand exactly kind of what's at stake here. So, reading from SCOTUS blog, specifically, how hard should it be for the NLRB to get an injunction in a case like this one? The statute doesn't say much. It simply provides that the court should grant, quote, such temporary relief as it deems just and proper, right? So that's all you've got, and so you kind of have to go back, look at history, look at case law, things like this. For its part, Starbucks points to a traditional four-part test that courts have developed for deciding when to issue preliminary injunctions, sometimes called the winter test. That test calls for 1, consideration of the likelihood that the party seeking the injunction will succeed on the merits, 2, whether the party will suffer irreparable harm without preliminary relief, 3, whether the balance of equity tips in that party's favor, and 4, the public interest. Starbucks argues that the Supreme Court has applied that standard in many contexts and that the court requires a specific textual command to opt out of it. For Starbucks, the, quote, just and proper language is far too imprecise to justify a departure from the traditional standard. Starbucks contends that the NLRB's test applied by the lower courts here is much more lenient because it considers only two factors. Whether the NLRB can show, quote, reasonable cause to believe that unfair labor practices have occurred and that injunctive relief is just and proper. That might... So that's 1 and then 2. That might sound so vague as to be basically the same as the four-part test, but it is not. Most importantly, the reasonable cause standard, unlike the likelihood of success on the merits factor in the traditional test, requires considerable deference to the NLRB, which need show only, quote, some evidence and not a, quote, not frivolous legal theory, with all factual and legal uncertainty being resolved in favor of the NLRB's administrative expertise. Which is, talking that, and that's the reason that the two-prong test should be what is gone with, because it requires deference to the NLRB, which is what in other parts of the NLRA prescribes. It prescribes deference to the NLRB. because of their administrative expertise, right? These are labor lawyers. These are people who spend their time learning and adjudicating and practicing labor law, right? That's going to be a lot different than a Supreme Court justice who has a more general expertise, right? That's kind of what we do in situations where we are faced with an area that we do not that we do not know much about. And actually, Brandon Magner, I just remembered this, pointed out some just factual errors in the majority opinion. So here's from Brandon. Thomas gets this portion of the opinion totally wrong. 10J injunctions can only be authorized by a majority vote of the board's members. They cannot be pursued solely by regional offices, which is what Thomas says. Thomas is saying that regional offices are going willy-nilly seeking 10J injunctions, and that's just not what happens. For one, it's not that common for the NLRB to seek a 10J injunction, and for two, it requires a majority vote of the board members. So that's kind of amazing that Thomas just gets a factual error wrong there. Very, very, very sloppy work. Very sloppy work by the Supreme Court. But, it's, you don't really have to justify it too much. All you got to do, if you are the Supreme Court, the Republican Supreme Court, then, all you got to do is decide in favor of capital. And that's what they did here. So they served their purpose. We've got a couple of Teamster stories. We might not get to one of them. The first one I wanted to get to is Amazon at JFK 8, where, we talked last week about how the Amazon Labor Union is merging with the Teamsters. You can go back and watch that clip if you would like. But in general, I thought that is probably a good idea based on the circumstances and the broad range of support that it has, right? That's really important to note, because there was some concern that, this could be a ploy to kind of keep the current leadership of the Amazon Labor Union in leadership. But the people who are opposing the current leadership, the Democratic Reform Caucus of the ALU, support unequivocally, like not mincing words, they support the merger with the Teamsters as well. The merger agreement itself, even though the Teamsters came out in a kind of weird way, the merger agreement itself does seem to provide for a certain amount of autonomy, and it does provide for the Amazon Labor Union members to vote before it is actually official. So, it seems good to me. And if I was a Amazon Labor Union member, I would probably vote in favor of the merger with the Teamsters. But because I'm not there, I tend to defer to people who are on the ground there. And in the midst of this merger, this potential merger, the vote is happening. I think it actually starts today. I think the vote is the 15th through the 18th or something like that. It's going to be taking place over a few days. In the midst of the vote, Amazon Labor Union members and Teamsters members and staff are passing out flyers to people at the JFK 8 facility in New York, letting people know about it, right? And that's something that everybody should want, regardless of where you fall on, do you support the merger? Do you not support the merger? Do you support even the union or not support the union? Regardless of any of that, where you fall on all four or however many sides there potentially are, you should want people to know what's going on. And that's what the Teamsters and the ALU are doing. They're informing people about this potential merger and the vote and encouraging the members to vote. Well, Amazon does not like that for some, and Amazon is scared. And I think that's another reason to be optimistic about the merger with the Teamsters is Amazon's reaction to the Teamsters coming to the Amazon facility. I think that if it were the case that the Teamsters were going to be a complacent union with Amazon and were not going to be supportive of, real strong efforts to organize the company and get a good first contract. I think if there were any reason at all for Amazon to believe that it's better for them to have the Teamsters as opposed to ALU, then this would not be the reaction. But it is, and so, I think that's another reason to be optimistic about the merger. But so Amazon has sent out a team update about how your safety is our top priority. And so this manager is saying, I want to address what we're doing about the unsafe actions we continue to see from the Teamsters and other outside groups. The unsafe actions, again, giving people leaflets in the parking lot. I mean, just really kind of, silly stuff, right? I mean, we're, unsafe actions, at best, if you're not a union supporter, this might be annoying. But what you do.
Someone talked to me in the parking lot.
Oh no! I had a human interaction. But look, some people have social anxiety, and that's fine. And if you don't want to talk to these people, you can keep walking. You can keep walking. We know this last week, again, this is management at Amazon. We know this last week has been frustrating and concerning for many of you, and we're working hard to protect all of us and get these outside groups to put our safety over their own interests. Again, we're leafleting the parking lot. We're talking, educating people about what's going on. And the Amazon Labor Union is definitionally no longer an outside group. And the Amazon Labor Union is the ones that have invited the Teamsters. So, the idea that they're still using this kind of third-party language is strange. So we've dedicated senior leaders and team members to act quickly outside the building to ensure safety and minimize disruptions in the parking lot. During shift change, the leadership team is available as you enter and exit the building. Don't hesitate to let us know if you're uncomfortable. For example, we can walk you to your car. Maybe they'll even hold your hand if you're lucky. Absolutely crazy. In addition, our leaders continue to respectfully and repeatedly ask non-employees to leave the property and not harass us as we head to or from work. And now, and we've been seeing videos of this come out, unfortunately, over the last several days, they've refused to leave. So we're also working with law enforcement to help keep us safe. Yeah, law enforcement, famous for proactively keeping people safe. If anyone ever feels harassed or intimidated, please escalate to your manager, HR, or any other leader in the building. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so, so here we go. Amazon just totally scared of the ALU's merger with the Teamsters and fighting it like their life depends on it. So there you go. I've got one more story, and then Adam may have a few words for you to wrap up. But this comes out of Los Angeles, where union nurses with SEIU, Service Employees International Union Local 121 RN, went on strike back in 2020 over safety issues. And so there are, I think generally, even if you have a no strike clause, even if there are not specific provisions for it, I think you can strike over safety issues. Potentially. I don't know. I'd have to read about it. I need to ask a labor lawyer about it. But nevertheless, whether there was an explicit provision that escalation to a strike is permissible within the contract so long as it relates to safety, or whether they were just leaning on the broad interpretation of labor law that, safety work stoppages are more protected than work stoppages over economics. I'm not entirely sure, but they went on a 10-day work stoppage against HCA Healthcare. This at Riverside Community Hospital. HCA stands for Hospital Corporation of America. one of those like dystopian kind of sounding names, the Hospital Corporation. That makes me sound great. Also, the same hospital that National Nurses Union has been protesting against in Asheville. They have recently won a contract with a HCA hospital in Austin, and I believe there's been some actions with an HCA hospital in Florida as well with the National Nurses Union. This is not the National Nurses Union. This is SEIU Local 121 RN. 10-day work stoppage during June of 2020 in an effort to force the hospital to increase staffing and improve safety as COVID-19 infections surged. The union said at the time, but hospital officials argued that because nurses also voiced complaints about shortages of personal protective equipment, which is also a safety thing, the reasons for the strike were too expansive to be allowed under the collective bargaining agreement the two sides had signed. So that was the position of the hospital. They took it to an arbitrator, and an arbitrator sided with the hospital, issuing a $6.26 million fine to compensate the hospital for the cost of replacing workers who walked off the job. So the arbitrator is asking the union to pay the scabs wages. I mean, this is just absurd kind of stuff here. SEIU 121 RN Executive Director Rosanna Mendez objected to the arbitrator's findings, saying nurses were permitted under their contract to go on strike. She called the arbitrator's decision, quote, absurd and outrageous, and said that the union is exploring options to contest the arbitrator's decision. So we're going to try to follow this story because this is one of those that could potentially have impacts for other folks. You know, there was a big fine levied against the United Mine Workers of America during the Warrior Met strike. It was like $13 million. It was settled down to some $300,000. But, stuff like this really cannot be allowed to stand, and hopefully they are able to overturn the arbitrator's decision in one form or another, because it's just you should not be you should not be able to do that, to be able to fine a union $6 million to pay for scabs wages when they went on strike over safety, right? There was nowhere, even the thing that the hospital alleges made the strike too expansive is that they were calling for increased PPE. There was nobody, it seems to me, is alleging that there was talk about, we need more money. No reason to suggest to me, I'm not an expert on this strike, but it seems to me that if there was anything to indicate that this was a strike over economics, that the hospital would be arguing that, and it does not appear that they are. It was a strike over safety, and yeah, it's just really, really wild. William Pena said another quick Los Angeles story. Food for Less, which is a big Kroger grocery chain out here, voted for a ULP strike. They're with UFCW Local 770. It's looking more and more like they will be walking, so look forward to keeping you updated on that. Look forward to you keeping us updated on that, William. Thank you. We're coming up on the end of the show. We have a caller on the line. We'll take that call really quick. Calling from a 352 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Calling from
Hello?
a 352 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, right on. This is Brandon from Cincinnati, from the Amazon KCVG Northern Kentucky campaign.
Yes, Brandon. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. What's on your mind?
Oh, a lot of things today. First, just wanted to say great show, as usual. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on here. Solidarity with the education workers there. That's a huge story. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. The Virginia education workers, and so basically, I'm calling in about the Amazon stuff, but there's just there's so much going on here in the world. The Supreme Court ruling against the Starbucks workers and stuff like that. But I really just wanted to call in today to really talk about the Teamsters ALU merger.
Yeah.
Because I have some, but I'm personally involved with that. So, out here at Amazon KCVG, we were working with ALU. KCVG is what we were calling ourselves. So initially we were working with ALU in a lot of ways. They were giving us some support, and we were initially using their constitution. But then at the beginning of the year, we voted to officially become independent, to disaffiliate with them. So that gave us the option of whether or not to, keep going forward with our own independent union. And I think I talked to you guys about this. But then, so we
had
all,
some folks
a lot
on
of
from, we had some other folks on the show on Zoom from KCVG to talk about the affiliation vote with the Teamsters as well. So yeah.
That's right.
Another instance in which I think that the workers probably made the right decision.
Yeah, so we basically, that was overwhelming too. I was one of many folks who voted to affiliate with the Teamsters. They didn't have to give the great presentations that they did, but they did anyways. And I felt like, they basically sold us on what they did across the street in a lot of ways with the local 100, working with the DHL workers over there. And then, and we saw personally, if people just paid attention as we were coming into work at Amazon, we saw the DHL workers out there on strike, and, we got to have conversations with people inside talking about how, they won their contract, they got their union, and so anyways, there's already a lot of, recognition for the Teamsters as a union in general. And frankly, there's a lot of the conversations I had with folks, or I've had with folks on the floor, is folks who they don't really know who the Amazon Labor Union is, and they don't really, there's a lot of suspicion, a lot of hesitation working with them. But then once people start talking about bringing in the Teamsters and possibly working with them, there was just from what I saw, just a lot of outpouring of interest, and just folks who weren't so interested in the union before suddenly became very interested, and so that vote was overwhelming. So there's a lot of support for that, and we're working with Local 89 out of Louisville, and these folks have been great. I
don't know if you saw the clip earlier in the show, but I think it was from Local 89. We played a clip from one of the UPS admin staff comparing his paycheck before the union and after the union. So seems like that's a good fighting local.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did see that, and that was awesome. And I actually got to meet that gentleman at the general meeting that they had last night. That they invited a contingent of us Amazon workers out to their meeting, and it was great. We got to check out the Union Hall in Louisville, and got to see how things worked, how an actual union works, because a lot of us have never been in a union. We don't know how any of this stuff works, it's just, we all have started this up from the ground up, and made a lot of mistakes along the way. But these folks at the Local 89 made us feel really welcome, and just, I don't know, it came off to me as just a great example, and folks that we can really work with, and they made it clear that they have our backs, taking on Amazon and trying to get our demands met. So,
right. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear they're working with y'all and seem to be doing right by you, and really looking forward to y'all filing for an election. Do you have any? Obviously you don't tell me if you shouldn't, but do you have any clues as to when an election filing might come?
I'm not really sure on that. I know the focus of the campaign has really changed now. Now that we're working with the Teamsters, it was a little very different when we were working with ALU. There was a lot of focus on getting cards signed and tabling out front, but now things are sort of they're changing, and I think for the better. So that's not really the focus at the moment. I think basically we're just trying to, build up support and, basically just, I guess, make the case that the Teamsters are able to represent folks and, support us when we want to take some kind of action. And I just wanted to say that, with this vote from JFK8 affiliating with the Teamsters as well. Well, I guess there hasn't been a vote, right? That's the whole kind of controversy here. They kind of came out in a sort of in a weird way here. And if I can speak to that, I believe that is kind of the way in which ALU JFK was formed initially, and the leadership structure and the coordinating committee and all that stuff. And I believe it has to do with a lot of that, and there really hasn't been, as far as I know, a representation of a clear democratic representation of who, represents that. So I can't, I don't know the whole story. I'm not a worker there, but I do, we have connections with folks. They supported us, as in the workers on the floor. And I just wanted to say, folks I spoke to said that they definitely, there's a lot of support for affiliating with the Teamsters, and that's coming from the Reform Caucus as well as just general workers. And frankly, eventually this will help folks get a vote and get a say. So I feel like those folks made the right call, and I welcome them, and just want to say solidarity, with everybody trying to get a union out there. So,
yep, I tend to agree. Thanks for your call, Brandon. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. All right, Adam, we're a little past 12:30. Do you want to go over some of that stuff that you had, or
no? I'll save that for next week. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Appreciate your time. Whether you're a new listener or you tune in all the time, like some of our frequent callers and commenters, really appreciate y'all. If you can spare a few bucks, definitely chip in, tvlr.fm/donate. We would really, really appreciate it. We're trying to get through this summer stretch and really just, keep on operating, basically. So if you value what we do on the air, you appreciate this project and our attempt to try to amplify the voices of working people and present, a different alternative to the corporate media and the right-wing media. If you appreciate what we're trying to do, definitely chip in a few bucks, spread the word. But yeah, your donations are very, very important. They really help us continue to stay on the air, to purchase the commercial radio time, to do the video editing and the graphics and the audio editing and the studio rental and just all the things that come with this project. We put a lot into it and really appreciate all the support that we've received, and can't do it without that support. So if you're already donating, we appreciate you so much. We couldn't do it without you. If you haven't donated in a while or you've never donated, if you can spare a few bucks, we really, really would appreciate it. So I just want to thank everyone who is doing this great organizing work. It was a great show. Great to hear from so many different folks involved in the movement, and encourage folks to get involved however you can, whether it's in your local, your labor council. If there's a chapter of DSA or other organizations in your area you can link up with, definitely just get involved. Find ways to get involved. It takes all of us doing what we can.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's going to be it for us for this week. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Labor Council meeting on Monday if you're in the area or coming through the area. Obviously, if you're not from the area but you happen to be in or around Huntsville and want to swing by the Pipe Fitters Hall Monday night at 6 p.m., let us know, and we'll make provision for you. But if you're in the community here in Huntsville, union member, working person, you're free to come as well. Let us know. And otherwise, we'll see you on the air next week.